Hey everybody, Royal Lions UK, Matt and Ash just setting up, although we're about to go live for the audio pod right now. We're going to have Ryan McCluskey joining us, hopefully in about 30 minutes time, which is exactly when the trade deadline closes. So that's going to be interesting as we break everything down. Obviously the Lions have had a trade so far, but we're going to wait until the deadline's elapsed so that we can kind of cover it all off in one go. So we're going to go for the one bit of news that we've got, then we're going to go for the game recap, and then trade deadline stuff is going to be at the end. As always, if you've got any questions, get them in the chat at the channel so that I can see it, because along with speaking and asking questions of Ash and monitoring all of the running order and whatever, it's difficult for me to read the chat at the same time as well. So help me out and we'll get that in there for you. Okay, Ash, you ready to go?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Lions UK podcast, episode 228, The Sack City Conglomerate. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Obviously, didn't go the full shift like you did last night, but waking up to another Lions victory is a great thing to wake up to.
Victory Tuesday is rare for the Lions. We haven't had one since 2017. At least not under the Monday Night Football guys. We may have had a Monday night game that wasn't technically Monday Night Football, but that was our last Monday Night Football win against Green Bay. So, interesting. It's been a long time. Anyway, we are going to get on with this. We're going to talk news. We're going to talk Raiders at Lions review show. And then we're going to get into the trade deadline. So the Lions have made a trade, but as we speak, there's still half an hour to go. So we're going to let that elapse, and we're going to cover it all off at the end. So without further ado, let's get on with this. Our Discord channel is doing some great things right now, and it was a hotbed of activity during the game last night. It's a fantastic place to come and chat Lions and honestly chat all sports or just hang out with us. So the link is in the live chat. Come and join us there. We'd love to see you there. If you've never used Discord before, don't be scared of it. It's just a simple kind of chat app that's kind of sectioned off into little threads and stuff. It's really simple to use and quite nice as well. So come join us there. College Football Podcast was on yesterday before the stream that we do normally. So it does not necessarily go up at the same time as the audio show, so it's probably going to come out after this one and has time to get there. So it may be that you listen to it after this. However, if you're on YouTube or Twitch, it's available to look at there. And obviously it was a big week this weekend in college football with a lot of big teams losing once again. So go and check that out. Don't forget to like the show, sub to the podcast, and rate and review and all that good stuff. It really, really helps us out. And don't forget to download the Lions Nation Unite app and add them on Facebook as well. Facebook.com/Lions Nation Unite. It's Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together. We are Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, and we've got a tip jar down below. So if you are enjoying what you're listening to and you want to show some love, we appreciate that very, very much. But just listening to it is enough, to be quite honest, you guys. And there's a feedback form down below as well. If you want to give us any suggestions on how to improve the show, be much appreciated if you would fill that out. We've also got our merch store open. Lots of really nice stuff on there, including hats and mugs and flags and hoodies and whatever. The quality of the stuff's really nice. Actually, I wouldn't just say that if you didn't believe it. We've tested all of this stuff already, and it's great. And I actually think it's a fairly good price too. So if you want to back us in a different way from just doing a super chat or donating, that's a really good way of doing it too. Let's get on with the news. And unfortunately, Ash, the Scott Daly watch has ended because he is off to IR. He needs surgery per Pride of Detroit. That dropped about 5 minutes ago, and I have Jake McQuaid ? In here. It's sad to see him go though, because for all of my criticism of him, it was only because I wanted to see him get better with it, and I do think that he did get better this season. I thought it was a substantial step up. He had one bad game this year, but that's much better than he's done recently. He's still a young guy, and he'll be back. He's going to have surgery. He'll be back, but for now, the chemistry for our kicking team is under threat.
Exactly, and I probably, from looking at the Discord when I posted it in, I didn't see the play that it happened on live. But as you say, that sort of synergy between snapper, holder, and kicker is fundamental to the success of kicking field goals. So having him not there does put it under a bit of jeopardy, which is, I don't want to say a bit concerning, but it will set us back a bit in the special teams, I think, because we want to rely on that special teams, especially in this place we are now where those field goals could win us a game. So very sad as much as, but Long Snapper Watch 2023 is back on and I'm here for it.
And I mean, Riley hit a 52-yarder as well. And the snap looked good for the one that was missed, and we'll come on to that in a bit. But I think he did get injured in that particular snap. I'm not 100%, but it's sad for him, and wish him well, and hopefully he comes back firing on all cylinders. Right, let's get on with the game review. So it finished Raiders 14, Lions 26, and the overall stats make for really nice viewing. The Raiders on offense, Garoppolo went 10 for 21, so that's less than 50%. Gross yardage of 126, but he was sacked 6 times. His net yardage was 77. He had a pick as well. Rushing the ball, Josh Jacobs was 15 carries for 61 yards. In total, they were 18 for 80, including 1 carry by the former Lion, Amir Abdullah. And in the receiving game, they were led by Josh Jacobs, 2 of 4 for 27. Otherwise, a myriad of people who all got 19 yards. Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer, Austin Hooper, Hunter Renfrow. The one name I didn't mention, Devontae Adams. 1 reception on 7 targets for 11 yards. For the Lions on offense, the only sack was on Amon-Ra St. Brown. More on that later. But Jared Goff went 26 for 37, 272, 1 touchdown and a pick, which of course went for a pick 6. Running the ball, though, is where we had some fantastic success. 43 carries for 222 yards and a touchdown. Headlined by Jahmyr Gibbs, 26 carries, 152 yards for a touchdown. And Craig Reynolds as well, 14 carries for 74 yards too. Receiving-wise, Amon-Ra St. Brown got about 90% of his yards in the first half. He went 6 of 9 for 108 despite feeling ill. God help the rest of the league when he is fully healthy. Sam Laporta, 8 of 10 for 57 and a touchdown. And Gibbs did some great work early in the receiving game as well. 5 of 5 for 37. The Lions did give up 3 turnovers. Josh Reynolds and Craig Reynolds also fumbled in addition to the Goff pick 6. On defense, Trayvon Merrick for the Raiders led them in tackles with 10. They had 1 sack, which was on Nate Hobbs, on Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they had 3 other tackles for a loss. Those were by Marcus Epps, Max Crosby, and Adam Butler. For the Lions on defense, they were headed by Alex Anzalone with 7 tackles. We had 6 total sacks, 2 for Anzalone, 1 for Tracy Walker, 2 for Aleem McNeil, and 1 for Julian Aquara. There was also an additional tackle for a loss by Alex Anzalone. The Lions pick was by Kirby Joseph. That was immediately after one of the Lions turnovers that really helped swing the momentum back in our favour. Marcus Peters was the one to get the pick 6 for 75 yards on Goff. Riley Patterson went 4 of 5 on field goals, including a long with 52 and 2 of 2 on 2 extra points. Daniel Carlson, who really didn't look good out there, managed to get over his 2 extra points. And Jack Fox only had 1 punt in the game for 48 yards versus AJ Cole, who had 5 for 242. That's all your stats. Ash, what story does that picture paint?
Complete and utter domination by our defense. The fact that they tried to force feed one of the best receivers in the league still in Devontae Adams, and it ends in 1 reception for 11 yards and an interception by Kirby and a great play that we'll come on to in a bit. We absolutely put the locks down, which is what we were calling for from last week, where, let's be honest, that first half, the Ravens could just pass for 10, 15 yards a go with ease. This week, admittedly on home ground against a worse team, but complete utter reaction to last week in the opposite direction, and it was amazing to watch. Offense at bits, as we'll get on to, especially with some of the red zone plays, didn't really keep up their end of the bargain at some times, but for the most part, we just put our foot down on this inferior team and just stamped our flag for that number 2 seed in the NFC.
What lovely words that is. 2nd seed. If only that could be promoted by 1. I have a feeling it might be soon enough, but we shall see. Let's get into this game in a bit more detail with the drive summary, and I'll kind of stop to breathe and discuss it as we go. So the first drive, Detroit started at their own 20 after a run out from the kick, and Gibbs set the tone early with a run for 7 yards on the very first play, up the gut too, not what you'd expect from Jahmyr Gibbs potentially, but he was able to do that most of the day. On 3rd and 3, the first third down of the game, Sam Laporta in motion left to right, and it was an easy pitch and catch for a first. It was just bad coverage by the Raiders, who just really didn't go with him, and Goff was able to pick them apart in this way a lot. Gibbs had 4 of the first 5 plays. He had a swing pass on a running back screen on 2nd and 7 for 8 yards, a play action pass where Gibbs misses his block and Goff dumps it off. Intentional grounding, question mark? Not sure. The debate, won't rumble on with that because no one cares. 3rd and 4, Gibbs almost in line on this play, or lined up basically in the slot, I guess, and he runs a short curl and gains a little yak to get a first down. 2nd and 6, Reynolds goes for another 12, Craig that is, for a first down. 2nd and 8, Crosby was unblocked and tackles Gibbs around the head, but there's no flag. I don't think it was a dirty play, but I've seen it thrown for less. On 3rd and 8, Goff threw into double coverage to try and get it to Sam Laporta, although they were in man, so the heads weren't turned around. He couldn't get there, went incomplete. Field goal's good from 44 yards, and the Lions go up 3-0. Vegas come out to their 25, and in fact, I think the Lions kicked off through the end zone every single time. They had a play-action check down to Jacobs for 13 on the very first play, and a flag for holding is picked up egregiously. I mean, it was a clear hold, and I don't know why they picked that one up, but never mind. They had a check down swing pass to Jacobs. That was almost picked up off his hands. He didn't look like he wanted to catch it. We almost battered it up to the cornerback. Branch and Tracy got tackles for losses on Jacobs kind of between him. Jimmy G then took off on 3rd and 10. Alex Anzalone spots him after good blocking upfield on the cornerback, and he just about gets there in time, so he's short and Las Vegas have to punt. Lions' second possession. Start off at their own 11. Nice throw to Reynolds. A good catch by him too, but while twisting and trying to turn upfield, he's stripped by the backup linebacker Masterson, recovered by Robert Spillane. But then Vegas, at our 26-yard line, with a big chance to take the lead, having been destroyed so far, Jimmy G sees Adams do a double move, who's beaten the cornerback, but Kirby's in weight helping on that side. He's never moved away from it, and I think Garoppolo just doesn't see him, and Kirby, I think, takes 3 steps back very slowly and just plucks it out the air with no pressure on him whatsoever. My only concern there is really he probably should have got his knee down in the end zone and come out to the 20 rather than taking it up to the 11, where a lot of Lions drives started from the 11-yard line. They got the ball back, but they went 3 and out with Goff under pressure for the entire set there. Punt away to the Vegas 41. They have a 3rd and 1 from midfield. Tackle for a loss by Alex Anzalone on Josh Jacobs on 4th and 2. They target Renfro deep and he stumbles, so it's a turnover on downs. Now the Lions start on the Vegas side of the field at the 49. Play action swing pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown with 2 Raiders right next to Goff. I don't know how he got that away, but he did. It's a wide receiver screen as well on that swing pass, and Amon-Ra St. Brown got 12. There was a flag thrown for an eligible man downfield, but that was picked up as well. I mean, I didn't really see that yet. I haven't seen the All-22, but glad they picked up that one. Gibbs ran off left tackle for 9. He almost broke it to the house, but a good trip on him by the Raiders. Gibbs then had a tackle for a loss by Marcus Epps on a safety run blitz. J-Mo in motion left to right. Goff to J-Mo on a wheel route, therefore. And it was just slightly behind him. Their timing is still not there. He maybe could have caught it, but I think the blame's more on Goff there than J-Mo. Goff then under pressure to Raymond for 15 and first down and goal. But then from there, run play for nothing. Run with a Decker hold sets us back. An odd delayed handoff to Khalif Raymond met with a tackle for a loss by Adam Butler. 3rd and goal from the 18. A wide receiver screen to Raymond for 11. On 4th down and goal, they feign going for it to draw him offside. It doesn't work. Delay of game sets them back 5. Field goal's good from 31. And the Lions go up 6-0. I'll stop there and catch my breath. Ash, the Lions dominating on offense, getting down, towards the red zone pretty easily, but then kind of stalling out. Play calling maybe not ideal here. We gave one away. We got it back straight away. It was an interesting passage of play, and we found ourselves up 6-0. But it feels slightly uncomfortable that it's not more than a 1-possession lead at this point.
Yeah, completely agree. And we said as much yesterday when we was watching it live. Defense was doing their things, but yes, as soon as we got close to the red zone, for some reason, the short field almost made us sort of overthink things. So obviously, the big one in this passage of play was the delayed handoff to Khalif Raymond on like a short jet end around that just got met by Butler because the pressure was already there. Like there was some mad red zone plays, but as we said in the thing, Ben perhaps was just going a bit too deep in his bag of tricks just to get some offense, sort of overcompensating for last week where just nothing was going right. He's just tried everything he could to get some offense instead of keeping it simple, which was working. But offensively, Gibbs was just on fire from snap one, getting the ball consistently on that first drive, going between the tackles, which not many people thought he could do consistently because of his size. And he handled it well. Like, he was showing great vision to read the sort of holes in the defense and go through to the second and third levels. Like, it's almost as if the game is slowing down for him now. He's sort of getting that ball carrier vision back, which really was a perk of his both at Georgia Tech and Bama in college. So really good to see. But come back to that defense, just clamps down. Like Kirby getting his first pick of the season, back to hopefully start of many more, because last year he was an absolute turnover machine. Long may it continue. Just a great play from him. Jimmy just misreading, seeing that Adams had Jacobs beat on the double move. And yeah, Kirby just went boop, boop, boop. Right, that's mine. And got it. Such a good play. Like, so yeah, would have liked to see more points on the board for us, but started pretty well considering circumstances.
All right, moving on from there. So the Lions have just gone up 6-0. Vegas take over at their own 25. 2nd and 6, Nalim bats the pass up from Jimmy G, and Alex Anzalone gets really close to it, but just can't quite get there for the pick. So that makes it 3rd and 6, and that's incomplete. Jerry Jacobs with a really nice pass breakup on Hunter Renfro forces a punt. So the Lions take over at their own 22. Play action pass to Amon Brown on a deep in route and up the sideline for 44 yards. And then a pop pass to JMO, met by Crosby in the backfield for a tackle for a loss. And JMO's helmet comes clean off on contact. I mean, I'm pretty sure that JMO didn't do that to himself. It's very clearly head-to-head contact leading with the head by Max Crosby. Now, coverage didn't mention it. Crowd certainly reacted to it, but not in any sort of like, that was bad way, but more of like a, oh, what a hit sort of way.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that there was absolutely nothing on that, and I really hope there's a fine involved for Max Crosby, because I thought it was a dirty play. I'm not even sure what he's meant to do, but not that.
Yeah.
Anyway, play action pass, escapes to the right for Goff to Amon Brown for 24 yards. There's a flag for illegal contact on Amon Brown, which is declined. Wide slant then to Sam Laporta, 4-9 to the 7-yard line. And then it would have been my favourite play of the season if it had worked. Backwards pass to Amon Brown. And he's got Khalif Raymond in the end zone. He's got about 6, 7, 8 yards of a separation in front of him and to the side of him. He's looking back at Amon Brown saying, pass me the ball. But Amon just sees 2 men in front of him and maybe just doesn't buy that he can actually get the target on there. I think he wanted clear ground to make the throw. The scheme wouldn't have allowed that, but anyway, he keeps it in and then he just takes the sack, which is a real shame. He could have thrown it away, but never mind. Then after that, Goff battled at the line by Adam Butler again. He had a really good day, actually, as far as the Raiders go on 3rd and 9. Forces another field goal from 33 yards, which is good. Detroit got up 9-0. Raiders take over for their 5th possession from their own 25. Jacobs with a nice cutback for a first down, then another nice cutback for 5. Jerry then has his illegal low block for 15 yards, and that was a clear penalty. I mean, that's helmet to knee, really nasty kind of stuff. Can't do that. Hooper then had a tight end screen for 12, and then Jacobs took over, weaving down for 7 and for 6 and for 6. On 3rd and 1, they had a sneak by Jimmy Garoppolo for 3. Then 1st and goal from the 3, Josh Jacobs finishes it off with a touchdown. PAT's good, and it makes it a 9-7 ball game. Interior of the offensive line for Vegas doing great work there, opening big holes for Jacobs, who just took what he was given and made a little bit extra. It was comfortable, and then suddenly not so much. But the Lions get straight back on the wagon with their 6th possession. Starting at their own 21, nice throw to Jamer, who ran an in-breaking route from the slot for 22 yards. Running back screen to Gibbs for 14. He reversed field with blockers to the left. He went to the right and actually got lots of room. Gibbs then ran for 12, although there was a horse collar and holding penalty offset with the holding on Sorsdal. The commentators suggested it might have been on the hair, but it clearly wasn't. There was then a run up the middle for 7. Goff then double clutched the throw before completing to Amaras and Brown on a short curl for 8. On 3rd and 6, Sam Laporta on a shallow cross and sit for 9. And Dan is trying to call the timeout at this point with 30 seconds left. And the referee's just ignoring him. I mean, it's really funny to see him just get exasperated on the sideline as he's saying, timeout. And then the very next play, Sam Laporta in the slot, he's got an option route. He decides to put it in for the slant under the post. Perfect time by Goff, who throws before he's even made the break. So he knows where Laporta's going. Touchdown Lions. PAT's good. Lions, after conceding that touchdown, hit straight back and go 16-7 up. And it's great clock management on this drive. They start off with about 5.5 or 6 minutes to go. They had 3 timeouts. They bled clock until it was manageable for them, burned 1 timeout, and left Vegas with basically nothing to go. I think they had 20 seconds left and no timeouts, the Raiders. They had 1 run to the right for 7 yards, and that was the half-time score of 16-7. Ash, Vegas had to punt with a nice pass breakup by Jacobs. Lions did some good things, ending in a field goal. Then that Raiders drive, but then we got back in with our own touchdown, and Laporta, kind of took over there a little bit. And the clock management for once was actually really good. It was an interesting passage of play.
It was. So, yeah, obviously, I think we can all remember my reaction to that Amon-Ra play. I think we finally found a play that Tom Kennedy would be better for than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, a rare play. I mentioned him because obviously he's popping up in certain circles as maybe someone we can look at on the practice squad. That I think is a holdover from him because obviously, if we all remember, he's a former lacrosse player. He does have the arm. He threw the Khalif Raymond touchdown. I think it was last year against the Packers in week 18 or the year before, where it was just great ball. I think it's a holdover from that, and Amon-Ra can probably do it. We've seen him training videos, him throwing the ball, and he can throw a pretty good ball. But yeah, he was just ruffled by the pressure that was coming towards him, and unfortunately ate the sack rather than making the QB play, which we can forgive. He can't be perfect. He'll probably go and throw 102 balls now in the next practice just to make up for it. But yeah, just other than that, so I did do some digging, and I think who was it in the YouTube chat that mentioned it? John Fisher said it. The reason Crosby didn't get flagged for that play is because it's inside the tackle box, and you can't get flagged for helmet to helmet in the tackle box, supposedly. So that probably explains the Crosby play on JMO where the helmet went flying. Just such a shame because for a lovely helmet like that to get absolutely obliterated like that, treated so poorly when it looks so beautiful, broke my heart. But yeah, just drove down 9-0. And then, yeah, Raiders, as you pointed out quite correctly earlier in the game, they were getting success through the middle, and they finally on that drive decided to do that, and it worked for them. But then, as you say, we just snatched back momentum, used up all that clock. Great clock management. We could tell from about where we crossed the 50, we were like, okay, yeah, we can see what's happening here. We're just going to bleed the clock. Don't give them time to answer back, because we knew they were getting the ball back to start the second, and we didn't want to give them the chance to potentially take the lead at the end of the first drive in the second half. So absolutely loved it. Great play from Sam Laporta as well, targeting the backup linebacker who got subbed in for Masterson, who unfortunately went off a couple of plays before with a concussion. Great chemistry between him and Goff. Probably going to continue for the rest of the season. He continues breaking records like this. I know this was the battle of the second round tight end picks because Mayer went around to Laporta in the draft. And we obviously got the better end of the deal, so it was great to see. And yeah, then the run to Abdullah, his one touch back at Ford Field. May he treasure the memory forevermore of his final touch at Ford Field. Actually going for 7, because usually he'd probably get tackled for a loss on those kind of plays if he was wearing the Honolulu blue. But so yeah, it was a great time for me to duck out, because obviously I ducked out as halftime, as those who watch the stream know. So I was fairly happy going to bed at that point. I was like, I can see we have momentum here. The defense is still doing their thing. Yeah, okay, they just gave up a touchdown the drive before, 2 drives before, but that was just a good play call drive by the Raiders there. I can accept that because I knew we'd come out in the second half, we'd make some adjustments, and we'll probably just keep squeezing their throats until they choked.
Yeah, all right. Going into the second half, which is what you missed, although you caught up on the third quarter, I know. The Raiders started off the second half with the ball, so a chance to cut it to a one-score game, and Adams caught his sole catch on the right-hand side for 11. Nice tackle on Jacobs by Pascal, I thought was noteworthy. Second down and 9, the throw to Devontae. He ran into Sutton, who ran the route for him. Devontae's calling for DPI, but it's more OPI than anything, because he stopped Sutton making a play on the ball. Third and 9, sacked by Julian Aquara. NASCAR package, 6 men came. He was the man on the outside. He bull rushed his man and actually made him step back, and then he just had free rides at the quarterback, which was great. And he wrapped up well, which is a theme of the Lions on the pass rush all day. Their tackling was actually very good. So that ended with a punt. And the Raiders actually committed an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for going out of bounds and not trying to return instantly. So the Lions actually come out and start at their own 44-yard line for this drive. And Gibbs, he hit a lineman massively, and in bouncing off several players, it actually took 7 Raiders to bring him down for a gain of 24 yards. And then the play that everyone remembers, Goff, near their red zone, looks left, comes back to the right, throws off his back foot with no power or elevation whatsoever, and a pick 6 by Marcus Peters for 75 yards. It looked like he was targeting Ambrose and Brown. It was in his direction. He did subsequently say he was trying to throw it away, which doesn't make it any better. PAT's good, and the Las Vegas Raiders make it a 2-point game, 16-14. But the Lions come straight back. 3rd and 5 with an in-breaking route to Ambrose and Brown for 14. On 3rd and 8, gun draw to Reynolds for 8 on a run. He kind of skidded over a defender to get his 8 yards. By the barest margin, he managed to get the first down there, but it was a nice play call. Play action pass to Craig Reynolds for 12. Good defensive play actually here. Craig did well to get his 12, but his arm holding the ball got separated from his body, exposed the ball to being at risk. We were lucky to not give away anything there. And then Gibbs running off right tackle for 17 yards to the 4-yard line. We then hand it off to Craig Reynolds, and it's called a fumble on the field. Now, he's on the ground. Whether he's actually on the ground or whether he's just lying on top of bodies is really hard to see. It's very clear that his forearm, his head, and all of his upper body are off the ground. It's clear that his leg does hit the ground at some point, but trying to pinpoint exactly when and where the ball is at that time is really tough. It's called a fumble on the field. It seems unlikely, but because there's no obvious evidence to overturn it, it stands. So we actually end up turning the ball over at their 4, and now it's a 2-point game, so they can actually drive for the lead here. But we back ourselves up. Vegas on their own 3-yard line start with a false start and back themselves up. Then a wide receiver bubble-like screen to Hunter Renfro. A great play by Cam Sutton here. Now, Devontae Adams is meant to be blocking him. He just beats him off the snap and gets to Renfro, who only gets a 1-yard gain. Then on 3rd and 4, big drop by Devontae Adams. It's not in the breadbasket, but he's got 2 hands on it and he just bobbles it up. And it's almost picked with how far it goes up in the air, but it does fall incomplete. They have to punt away at that point, and we take over at their 49. And it only took 2 plays for the Lions to get the touchdown on the board from our 49, therefore, I'm not sure. Goff play action boot to the left, throw to Josh Reynolds, and a clear DPI by Amick Robinson for 17 yards. And then Gibbs with a run up the gut, jump cut to the right, great blocking, and he turns on the Jets for a 27-yard touchdown. PAT's good, and the Lions make it a 9-point game once again. At this point, Awasika goes off injured, which means Dan Skipper comes in after that play. I'll stop there. Ash, a lot happened in this third quarter. Obviously, you went to bed, and although we forced a punt, we very quickly had the pick 6 and a very sinking feeling in my stomach going, what's happening? Then we get the fumble after a really good offensive drive, but finally, we establish ourselves. The defense does its bit, and it only took 2 plays to go half the length of the field. Gibbs, I mean, very much backing up what he did last week in turning on the Jets, but the jump cut after going up the gut and then missing some people, the blocking was fantastic, but he absolutely made it for himself too.
Yeah, though I thought it was 3 plays for that final drive, because obviously you had the sort of Gibbs inside zone on a far 49 that led to the
Yes.
pass.
Yes.
Because this is literally where I got to. I managed to watch up until the Gibbs touchdown on a break, and then I unfortunately had to finish. And I was thinking of doing it, but unfortunately the tram was just too busy for me to watch it coming home. But what a rushing touchdown for Gibbs. And whoever the poor husband is to that woman who pulled up into the stands. Poor man, your woman's been snatched, my boy. Your woman has been snatched. She is now Gibbs's.
In my defense, it's called a two-play 51-yard drive by ESPN because the DPI doesn't count as a play. Apparently.
Okay, so
we're both correct. ESPN. We're both correct.
And we can officially say that the trade deadline has passed.
Oh, let's see if any news comes out subsequently, because of course things could be signed, but they haven't actually been released to the public yet. But let's continue on. I mean, yes, the pick six and the fumble. I mean, we weren't exactly great holding on to the ball.
Yeah, so I have seen the interception. It is a boneheaded move.
Yeah, don't worry. Sorry, they're asking in the chat for what I'm drinking, so I'm holding on.
Well, it's appropriate because football is a game of inches at the end of the day.
Well, hey, I'm drinking a can of inches, by the way, for the audio pod listeners who haven't seen that.
Do I make the joke?
No. Carry on. Carry on.
So, the pick six, boneheaded move. I can see kind of what he's trying to do. He's trying to sidearm it to Amon Ra, but he just does not get the necessary power on it, and he just floats up for Peters to get it. And that's what Peters has done throughout his career. He takes those easy interceptions and turns them into pick sixes. He did it at in Kansas City. He did it in Baltimore, and he's done it for Las Vegas now. And the fumble, I've seen it. It's one of them where whatever happens, someone's going to be upset. Either they call it a fumble like they have, and we're like, well, it's down. You can't clearly see it. It's not because you can't clearly see it. No matter what the refs decided, someone's going to get upset. It just so happened that the cleat effect came in effect, and they get it. So, but yeah, just a good response from us to force the free and out right after where momentum seemingly just flipped to Las Vegas. We suddenly just put our foot down. It's a free and out. 2.5 plays later, let's meet in a happy middle. We're scoring a touchdown for a 2-score lead again. So adversity comes, we respond. That's what Dan Campbell's regime has bumped into this team. 2 years ago, those would have happened. We would have capitulated, folding on ourselves, and they'd win the game. Not anymore. Not with this mentality of this team. Someone makes a mistake, everyone else steps up, makes up for it, and we just force momentum back into our favour again.
We do indeed. Right. Vegas take over at this point for their 9th possession from their own 25. Play action pass to Mayer for 19 was probably one of their better plays on the day. Sutton with good coverage, but the big body just wins sometimes. Maybe not the very next play, but play after that or so. Mayer this time went up the seam, but lovely pass break up by Kirby Joseph. You'll like it. Go and watch it. 3rd and 5 then, a sack by Liam McNeil. Really great rep by him. So he starts off in the one gap over or in between the centre and the right guard. He moves over to the gap between the centre and the left guard to attack the left guard. Pushes him back. Tries to pull him to his right. The guard matches and he spin moves the other way. It's a gorgeous rep. And he ends up...
You can see me kind of visualising it in my head. Like,
yeah. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. You can really see that he has picked up not just some pass rushing moves, but some nice counters and second efforts.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. That ended that drive. Lions take over at their own 11 once again. Somehow it kept going there. I don't know why. Gibbs with great contact balance got 11 yards. Another one by him for 7 up the middle. Play action pass by Goff to Sam Laporta for 8. Then another 9 for Gibbs. A running back screen to Gibbs for 3 and a first down. Craig went for 5 on 4th and inches from the Vegas 40. A sneak by Goff got 2 and Max Crosby was offside anyway. 3rd and 8. A crosser to Raymond. Would have been a first down and goal, but Goff just missed him. And actually a couple of times, there was the JMO one he missed and Raymond also. I do think that sometimes Goff struggles with the faster receivers. And I do think potentially this is his issue with the deep ball. It's not that he can't throw it, it's that his timing is slightly off for receivers who are faster than he expects. I think you see it from this play in particular. Field goal is taken after this from 52 yards. It was tipped. Someone said in the live chat was that tipped because it looked weird from 52 yards. It didn't go as you would normally expect. But Riley absolutely hammered it. And actually, I do think the tip helped somehow. It didn't take any power out of it, but it actually changed the trajectory up a little bit with that power.
Yeah.
And it was good from 52. So good for Riley. I think that was only his third make of 6 from that range. That made it a 12-point game, 26-14, and that was it for scoring. Vegas on their 10th possession, and, I mean, maybe the funniest play of the night. Kickoff was hit, and this was the only one, actually, which didn't end up in a touchback. It was bouncing around the 5-yard line, didn't go into the end zone, but it was touched by the Raiders' returner. It skirted around out there, actually went into the end zone, but after he touched it beyond the line, so he did have to recover it and come up, and he was tackled by the Lions at the 2. So their worst starting field position of the day, that was DeAndre Carter who had that mistake. Adams beat Sutton deep the very next play. He had a double move. Sutton absolutely bought that it was going to be a dagger route, but it was just a go ball. But Hutch, when we brought 5 or 6 on that play, hit Jimmy hard and forced him to go too quickly and couldn't get it there. But it was a walk-in touchdown if he'd actually got it on target, but didn't. Jack Campbell, then on 2nd down and 10 from the 2-yard line, he fell and went straight into Garoppolo's knee. And you looked at it and thought that could be, one of those awful season-ending injuries. But Garoppolo, if nothing else, is a warrior fighting through injuries. That was a 15-yard penalty. Next play, he escapes and has a nice pass to Jacoby Myers for 19. And then the Lions defense just has its best stretch of the day. Alex Anzalone with a linebacker blitz for a sack. The line pulls to the left. Anzalone is on the opposite side at mid-linebacker. He's coming on the blitz. They don't expect it. He's unabated to the quarterback who just has to eat it. 2nd and 17 then. And Ali McNeil has a sack. He split a double team between the centre and left guard. Just goes straight between him. 3rd and 28 therefore. Wide receiver screen to Renfro for 18 yards, making it 4th down and 10. And another sack for the Lions. And another one for Alex Anzalone. And he bull rushes Josh Jacobs before hitting Garoppolo. That's a turnover on downs. Lions with the second to last possession for them. Craig Reynolds bouncing outside for 15, making it 1st down and goal from the 4. Craig then gets a touchdown, but a flag on Skipper for holding is a legit call. Lots of short runs to kill their timeouts at this point. Play action pass to Sam Laporta was dropped. He probably wasn't getting in anyway. And Riley Patterson misses from 26 yards. The snap and hold looked fine. He just kind of sliced it a little bit. It wasn't great. So the Raiders take over. Sidearm throw to Jacobs is fumbled by Jacobs after it was caught, but recovered by Jacoby Myers in front of him. Adams again beats Sutton deep for the 2nd time in 2 possessions, but Jimmy missed him this time. Absolutely had time to throw it and just couldn't put it on target. And then Tracy Walker got in on the action with a sack on a safety blitz. On 4th and 17, they go for it again. Underneath to Amir Abdullah. He got 7 or 8 yards, but there's no chance he was getting the 17. Turnover on downs. Lions then continue to kill their timeouts. On 4th down and 2, they decide to go for it twice the game. Play action pass to Brock Wright. He gets 4, goes down in bounds. That's a 2-minute warning with no timeouts left. And it's all done. I know that you haven't seen this portion of the game, so I don't know from what I've just said what you can comment on particularly, but
I thought of a good comment. Listening to what you was describing about Adams, a top bona fide receiver getting overthrown by a mediocre quarterback, when one team's wearing special uniforms. Sounds a bit like the Bucs game to me. Baker overthrowing Wyvern Evans currently over and over again while they're wearing the bloody creamsicles.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's our I think that's our best strategy for coverage is just wear special uniforms, let quarterback overthrow. But as Rye joins us, I'm obviously joking. I have seen. I'm trying to think. I've seen one of the plays on Twitter. I think it was the first AA sack, and it does look pretty like just a well-schemed play from Aaron Glenn. Brilliant. And obviously then just ice the game. It always seems to be when we need those like sort of 4th and 1, 4th and 2s to ice games, it does seem to go to someone like Brock Wright or Craig Reynolds, is someone the opposition doesn't really expect, which is quite nice to see.
Ryan, we've just come to the end of the drive summary and talking about the game pretty much as a whole. So we're going to go into game themes and cigars and subpars and talking about some of those games and then the trade deadline. But just give us some sort of high-level comments about the game. I know that you have some particularly strong and good takes, so I'm interested to see what you thought on this one.
Not a good performance. Didn't need to be, because luckily we were playing one of the worst offenses in the league. So we were able to ride our luck a little bit. Goff, not a very good game. Like I said, pretty clean at the half, but like I said, more bad passes. Second half, we could run the ball, but a stinker. Like I say, so and we got the job done. I think that's all I care about. But it should have been way easier than we made it. It was one of those weeks where we constantly made life harder for ourselves. Blakeman, Cleat, he was on our side. He picked up multiple flags for the Lions that changed the game. It was a really well-called game in our favour. I can't often say that. But a lot of the things we did ourselves, penalties, turnovers, etc., we made life as difficult as possible. Player calling in the red zone, Ben Johnson, terrible. I don't know why. Just irritating. Like it was like for one game, he's like, I will be the smartest guy in the room. Silly handoffs, like say when playing backup guards, players getting blown up.
Are you thinking of the Raymond handoff after we got backed up in the red zone for that one in particular?
Yeah, that was a terrible play call. You saw that would have been dead before the play went up. And then asking Amon-Ra to like throw it out, and you could see like the receivers, anyone out there weren't going to block. They basically got free release. That player was pretty much dead as soon as it took off. So yeah, ultimately it didn't cost us. That game last year we lose. After the pick six, we lose that game, I'm pretty sure. But this year, luckily, we're a little bit more resilient, thank God.
Does that go across the board? I mean, what do you make of the defensive performance? Because I do buy what you're saying on offense, at least red zone wise. I thought we moved it really well between the 20s on offense. I thought Goff was actually really good apart from that. Oh no, with that, but not good apart from that. But on defense, I feel like they were the ones bailing us out.
Defense was funny, because I suppose it's kind of easy to play defense against an offense that really is clueless. Like they had absolutely nothing, apart from one drive where Josh Jacobs ran up the middle and got 4 to 6 yards on every single play. That really pissed me off because that was absolutely bread and butter. That was the easiest thing possible. But other than that, like Sutton busted 3 coverages, and it could have been 2 touchdowns, but the throws were dreadful. And so yeah, but other than that, Sutton, this is the first time I've seen our cornerback actually go travel with someone. He took Devontae Adams the entire game and went left to right, and for 50-60% of the time, he was with him. 40% of the time, Adams' routes just burned him. And but then drops, bad throws, but no, defense. And then the second half, all those sacks, it felt like it was just as much as them giving up as us generating pressure. It came at the time where the game was kind of nullified and we just teed off on Jimmy. But yeah, defensive performance, I was pretty happy in general, like you say. Hutch was neutralised, I thought, for most of the game. And that has led to some of my frustration from today and what has panned out. I did see him, again, it seems like teams are working out ways to slow him down. If not take him out of games, but make him non-factors in, entire quarters. But, no, I can't really complain. Kept one of the best receivers in the league quiet. Basically gave nothing to last year's rushing leader. And, made Jimmy look like the absolute fraud he is. That was probably the minute that made me happy. I don't like him.
All right, I'm going to come on to some game themes here. We've kind of been talking about a few of them already, but the first one I have, Ash, is that bar one drive, we dominated in the trenches. On offense, I felt like Goff wasn't under a huge amount of pressure, and given that we had 3 backup interior offensive linemen out there, I mean, we ran the ball effectively pretty much all day, apart from maybe a little streak in the second quarter where they locked us down a little bit. But apart from that and the one Josh Jacobs drive, it was our day.
Yeah, completely. So I'm just quickly looking to see how many pressures we did give up. It was 14 on 39 dropbacks, supposedly, which doesn't sound that well, but I agree. Aside from that one drive where Jacobs was just running the ball down our throats on defense, we did dominate. And it's surprising considering, obviously, both me and you, I remember, were a bit concerned about the offensive line with all the injuries in the interior, like we're starting Colby Sorsdal, who's a converted tackle from William Mary, who this was his first proper pro game, and he was pretty damn good, to be honest, as we'll probably come on to in a bit. Arasika was okay until he got injured. Skipper, aside from that holding penalty, supposedly he was really good from what I was listening to from the Detroit Lions podcast. And Glasgow, he will never be frank, but you couldn't really spot that it was him there. Like, he didn't do much wrong from what I saw. So overall, we had the offensive line had a great game, like especially Decker, who's the darling of the PFF Lions Twitter account today, like not only giving up one pressure, like that's Pro Bowl level stuff from someone who, let's be honest, part of the fan base are already looking for potentially drafting his replacements in the next couple of years. I think Decker's here to stay for a while longer than that. And games like this show why, because he is Mr. Consistent. Saul obviously gets all the plaudits being the high pick and the young guy, but Decker's steady at left tackle. Aside from that season where he was coming back from the torn pec he suffered in his second year, when he's been in the lineup, he's not really done that much wrong.
Ryan, what did he make of the trenches warfare? Because, I mean, they had their moments, but maybe they won a battle and we won the war significantly.
It was men against boy. Max Crosby, he had himself a day, let's be honest, didn't he?
Oh.
Nope. So
Come
it's not
back,
just
Ryan.
me that's racing for. Come back, we need you.
Ryan! Where have you gone? He'll be
Where
back
did
in a
he come
minute.
from?
I hope. Hello.
Oh,
Oh,
hello.
There you go. You're back.
I didn't go anywhere. I could still see myself.
Sorry, go again.
Yeah, Max Crosby. Yeah, he was a one-man wrecking crew for most of the game. We knew what it was about. We still kept him very quiet, which was good to see. I was glad that we did neutralize him in spits and spats. He made some big plays and he did single-handedly stall us at times, but no one else. He's got no help. And yet, any other point where we ran the ball, like say behind 3, essentially backup linemen on the interior, we had our way with them. An offensive line, I say in pass pro, Goff pretty much had all day. Like, that was a super clean pocket for the league's most disruptive players. He was getting the ball out quick, sometimes too quick rushed, but yeah, they very rarely actually got close to him, and we were able to have a lot of success, especially with Craig Reynolds, literally just running up the arse of Graham Glasgow, just ploughing through the middle like say tackles, and that is something I thought we could struggle against. Even though they're a bad run defense, we've struggled this year at times to just plough up the middle. We have seen some resistance, but no, on the trench warfare, we controlled line of scrimmage and defensive line as well. We made life really difficult for them. I say for 3 quarters, we weren't exactly getting home, but we were giving Jimmy food for thought. We were giving Josh Jacobs absolutely nowhere to go. He was dead in the water for most of the game. And if he even got outside, then the likes of Jack Campbell, Anzalone, Tracy Walker, they dealt with him. Like I say, it really was totally one-sided. One of the best trench games of the season.
And moving to the back end, you mentioned a couple of reps where Devontae Adams burned Cam Sutton, and he legitimately had walk-in touchdowns at that point. But accepting those 2 reps, I felt like the DBs, in fact, the back 7 as a whole, I thought had a really good day today. Anzalone obviously got his couple of sacks, but I thought he was everywhere on the field. He stopped Garoppolo getting that first down early on and forcing a punt, which I thought was significant. Thought Kirby Joseph had a really good day. He had the pick, but in coverage he also had another pass breakup. You had Tracy Walker with a sack and a pass breakup. I thought Jerry Jacobs had one of his better games of the season. Ryan, this coverage unit, I mean, I know accepting 2 plays with a walk-in touchdown is a big caveat, but you look at what we did last year in terms of being through half the season, historically maybe the worst defense in NFL history, and where we are now. I know the Raiders aren't a great offense, but Jacoby Myers is a good wide receiver. Devontae Adams is a great wide receiver. Renfro is frisky. Mayer is fine, developing as a tight end. You know, these guys aren't no ones, and maybe the problem is potentially coaching over there and Garoppolo just not being great. But the coverage I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, and I think for the first week of the season, we got the physicality right without drawing penalties. They were stepping in guys' ways, like say Sutton a few times did. Like say there were 2 plays like where he basically collides the receiver because the coverage is so good, and no calls. This literally said didn't affect it. Like say you could have played the ball. Like Jerry, like say, was tight. Like say a lot of tipped passes as well. Tracy, a lot of guys getting in passing lanes, tipping balls. Coverage, probably the best coverage performance of the season. And I'm kind of now at the point where I just kind of want to give Cam Sutton a guy and just say, he's your guy. Like, not like if he goes over there, like you don't go with him, like switch your responsibilities, because that's sometimes when we do see players break down when they travel through zones and we're passing them off. So if we're going to go a bit of man, I'm okay with that, increasing our percentage and just lining them up and saying, that's your guy. You're responsible for him. Where he goes, you go. He beats you, it's on you. Like I say, if you beat him, then you get all the plaudits. And it worked pretty well last night. Like I say, apart from Mayer made a great catch, which was good, like say, in between like the backer and the safety. That was just a good effort. But yeah, Renfro kept quiet. I can see why no one's traded for him, because I think he's vastly overrated. He's incredibly unathletic and slow. He is the whitest of white receivers. But yeah, Jacoby Myers can be dangerous. Nullified. Devontae Adams is the kind of guy that he can't get outside his own head. So by halftime, we've got him that frustrated. He's never going to win because, like you say, he's playing mad, and that doesn't really work for him. Like you say, he could have scored 2 times, and if they'd have scored, would have dug Sutton out. Most likely, a lot of people would have, but he didn't. So I can't say, yeah, just happy with everyone.
Ash?
Yeah, completely agree. I know I made the joke earlier about, oh yeah, what we need to do against elite receivers is wear special uniforms and have the quarterback overthrow them. But for the most part, yeah, the coverage was great. As Ray said, Adams at halftime was looking pissed. He was like, why come I still here? Like, he obviously got traded to the Raiders to be with his college QB in Carr. He's there for his season, and he buggers off to New Orleans, and now he's stuck with bloody Jimmy G, who's probably be better cut out to be a model than he is to be a quarterback at this point. Like him outside the Patriot system where you've got Brady in front of you and you're just playing a couple of games in relief while Brady's sitting out his suspension and gets traded to 49ers with one of the best play callers in the league where he makes everything easy. Now where he's having to be the guy and do all the decisions ain't really working out for him. It really isn't working out for him. So it's just great to see the coverage though. Like, you're doing good when, okay, yeah, there's a few overthrows and that, but holding any quarterbacks with 50% completion rate is usually a good sign that you're doing things right on the back end. And that's what happened last night.
Going to move on to the next theme, and Ash, I'll come back to you straight away. And it's Jahmyr Gibbs having his proper breakout. And I mean, I think he was breaking records, at least for franchise, but maybe it's, I'm sure it's probably franchise, about consistent 50-yard games total from scrimmage. But he had 152 yards on the ground, he had 37 yards receiving, and he's got 399 yards total rushing on 6 games, because obviously he's been injured for a couple of them. Success rate of 44.7% is extremely high, 5.3 yards a carry, 67 yards a game on only 13 attempts average, and he's caught 28 of 33 on the year as well. So, I don't know what people want from him, but he absolutely is coming to play and coming alive for us at a time when we need him most.
Yeah, well, let me add one more stat set to prove it. Jahmyr Gibbs has the most scrimmage yards over the past 2 games in the entire NFL. So certain members of the Twitter community, the fantasy people, the draftniks, stick that in your fucking pipe and smoke it. Shut up. This proves why you should not start making claims about rookies with like 3 weeks into the season. Things happen. They need to acclimatize. They need to work. Teams need to work out, okay, yeah, we've got this player. Great. How best to use him? So start putting him in situations to see what he can do well, and then start doing that. And then they start putting him in good positions. And look what happens. There's a certain person that's obviously popping into my mind. Everyone who watches this podcast knows there's a certain draft expert in inverted commas who also tries to be an NFL analyst, who's a fan of another team. I've got a couple more of his tweets bookmarks. This continues. They're getting pulled out and they're getting aired like the dirt, like Bill Clinton's bloody dirty laundry. Like I cannot wait to start rubbing people's faces in it because drafting a running back at 12, it's not Bijan Robinson, probably made a few people raise a few eyebrows. But this is why we did it. Because he is, when he gets into open space, he's able to just make one guy miss. He can go for miles. Like, that dude is quick. Like, okay, yeah, people forget last year for Alabama, he was their leading rusher, leading kick returner, and their leading receiver. He can do it all. He just needs to get up to speed. And now it's happening. And I said it on the stream before I went. With Gibbs in this kind of form, when Monty comes back and is back to his full self bowling people over, that is the ultimate hammer, thunder and lightning combo. I'm talking Mark Andrews, Alvin Kamara rookie season.
Mark Andrews?
Not Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram.
I would like to see Mark Andrews as the Thunder. That would be good. That would be really good.
That would, well, imagine that. Mark Andrews and Cole Pitts. There you go. It's people that love tight ends. Ryan Matthews. I've probably just summoned him. But I was saying, I remember that. And people forget with Kamara's rookie season, I actually saw him play live. I went to the Finns Saints game that year at Wembley. Guess how many carries he got in that game? 3. Guess how many carries Adrian Peterson, who was then on the Saints, got? 16.
No one can resist the AP.
The AP all day, exactly. He's there all day. But that's what I'm saying. Those kind of running backs who are, I don't want to say finesse rushers because we showed today, last night, Gibbs can run between the tackles, but those sort of more shifty, needs a second, putting the foot in the ground to read and then go kind of backs. They need a few games just to get up to speed, work out how to properly manipulate defenders in the NFL, and then they start getting well. Gibbs did that last night, and it was beautiful to see.
Ryan, on Gibbs, I mean, on Bijan's got 466 yards on 7 games. Gibbs has got 399 rushing yards on 6 games and on a much lower snap count. And, I mean, what did you think of his rushing touchdown yesterday? Because it was quite something.
Yeah, he fit through the tiniest of holes, didn't he? I can't believe he got through that middle. And then, well, the one elite trait he's got is home run speed. When he saw the pylon and he turned the afterburners on, it was over, wasn't it? He has got just that gear that we lack. A lot of players in our offense, they just lack it. Like I say, we're not primarily built off speed, but he brings it, and he's got it in abundance. And it's just, he is going to quickly overtake Bijan in probably most categories. Because it's funny, if you notice, like no one's complaining how the Falcons are using him. Like he has been massively underused in the last 2 weeks, and the Falcons have not looked good because Ridder is pony.
Never mind that, he scored his first rushing touchdown of the season on Sunday.
The Falcons for you.
It shows, like say, that the bias, doesn't it? Like everything they do is fine. Like I say, they literally replaced a 1,000-yard back with Bijan, and that was fine. Like I say, we struggled to run the ball outside of the 5-yard line with punching touchdowns after running back 12, and it's pandemonium. We're fucking crazy for doing it. So, but we've got the best problem in the world. We have got a very dependable, tough, gritty guy that can now take 2, 3, 4 weeks to heal the ribs. He's tied down for a couple of number of years. By the end of the year, he'll probably be running back 2 anyway because Jameer Gibbs will take the job. And that is fine. I'm totally okay with that because there's far worse positions to be in. And then that's not even talking about Craig, who last night did the dirtiest stuff possible. Like you say, he got that crucial, what was it, the 3rd and 8 that he converted that really changed momentum after the turnover. That was a massive play, that. But yeah, we have got probably one of the most underrated running back rooms, I'm going to say, in the entire league with those 3 guys.
And it's quite funny because I remember you saying not too long ago about Craig Reynolds before he was quite good, that you were like, I don't even really care about him if he goes whatever. And you completely about turned on him.
No, like I say, the fact we've had to call upon him and he's done the business, like, yeah, he's definitely changed my mind.
There we go. I love that. And I mean, with the yardage that he's on right now, if you project it out for his games for the rest of the regular season, assume the Lions are done at the end of the regular season, because, you know, that's the metric that most people use when it comes to this regular season yardage. He's on for 998 rushing yards this season.
If there is a way to aggregate that, because obviously the first couple of games doesn't really count.
I mean, it's a really easy calculation as well. He's played in 6. There's 9 left. He's got 400 yards, and there's 1.5 times that remaining for him to go. So there's 600 yards projected, which is just under 1,000 with him at 399. So, you know, if he gets to be a 1,000-yard rusher being RB2 for the majority of the season, that's outstanding.
If he does that, if he gets the 1,000 rushing yards and he gets the receiving yards too,
I'm looking,
he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year for me.
Stroud, surely.
It's Stroud, unfortunately, yeah. We've just said it.
Got to be Stroud.
Chat. I'm just looking now. So
we'll see if Stroud has just lost his centre, Jack Patterson, for the year. That we'll see if that directly affects his play or not.
So, and he's on for about 500 receiving yards as well.
Yeah. Yeah, having 1,500 all-purpose yards would be really interesting. Anyway, next game theme for me is resilience through adversity. And Ash, we spoke on this a lot during the streams. I've just come straight to Ryan on this, and you've kind of touched on it already. But, you know, the Lions put themselves in holes and came back. There was the Josh Reynolds fumble. We get the pick, the play afterwards. Craig Reynolds fumbles. And, you know, we hold them to a punt straight away and then keep coming back at them. And they score a touchdown. We score a touchdown to respond. Every time they even got a sniff of anything in this game, we snuffed it out pretty quickly. It's been a theme all the way through the season. Apart from against the Ravens, they've done this.
It's probably the biggest thing we've worked on, is not dropping our heads when bad things happen. Because despite being 6-2, a lot of bad things have happened. Like I said, we've had costly turnovers. We have gone for 4th downs and we've fluffed it, and we've given the ball back with good field position. And that is the kind of stuff that the Lions 2-3 years ago, it would demoralise them. A team would march down the field and they would score. And so you still get a pit in your stomach, like when you see Goff visually try throw a ball out of bounds and get taken for like an 80-yard touchdown. That is the kind of sucker punch that 3 years ago you would probably put your fist through your tablet and be like, how are we going to throw this game away again? But what happened? They got the ball back. And like I say, they go down the field. They chew clock. It's methodical, and they make sure the drive ends with points. Whether it's 3, whether it's 7, it's not about that. It's a mental thing. Like I say, it's the fact that we screwed up. We know we screwed up. Like I say, that cushy lead and momentum we've got is zapping. Got to stop it. You stem the bleed there and then. And we did that time and time again. Every time we had to settle for a field goal because, like I say, the player calling or poor execution, and we trusted Patterson. Yep, 4 out of 5. Yep, fine. We kept the ticking. We made sure the defense went out there, got the ball back. Like I said, the Reynolds fumble. Like I said, the ball was juggled, nearly picked anywhere, and then he still gets it, and then gets ripped out, and you just think, bad timing, bad position, because it's literally midfield. You think that's really frustrating. But what happens? Like I say, Jimmy G gives us a light up, but we pick it off. Like I say, and then, but then that brings its own problems because Kirby's too excited. He brings it out, only gets like the 10-yard line. And the next thing, like I say, really bad, some poor play call and execution. We're punting from our 11-yard line when we could have been a touchback. So, mental errors, but we didn't let them define the drive. Like I said, that period was really frustrating because we're leading like 300 to like 50 yards and we've got no to show for it. It's all field goals and it feels like we're really shortchanged. And yeah, we showed a lot of resilience on the drive because it took 3 quarters to physically wear them down before they rolled over and gave in. But they were right in the game for a lot of it. And it was very frustrating. Unless the Lions teams lose that game, like I say, they give up on defense, they crumble, and the turnovers turn into points. So that was probably the most thing I was happy about.
It's easy for a team to let its heads drop. Like Ryan said, we've seen it before.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, completely right. 2 years ago, that would have just killed the game. Just killed us completely. But now we just turn over, take the punch, get up, and start punching back. Like, as I say, Kirby made a great play for that interception. Obviously, Jimmy made a poor decision, but so easy for Kirby. The fumble on the goal line, probably BS, but we didn't let us beat us down. And that's what we need. There is going to be times later in the season where potentially we're playing meaningful games in January where we will have to battle bad luck because no team's ever going to get a perfect streak of good luck. It's impossible. There's stuff that's going to go against you, and it's usually in those kind of situations where it is high pressure, you lose, you're out. It's whoever deals with those kind of things better that comes out on top. Like, look at the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year. Mahomes is playing on half a ankle. They overcome it and they win. That's what good teams do. And we are a good team now. Hell, we're a great team. We might not have all the talent of a Philadelphia or a San Francisco or Kansas City right now, but we make up for it in how well this team plays together and handles adversity, because some of those teams, they folded in recent weeks. Like the 49ers have lost 3 on the bounce now. 3 on the bounce. They've gone from this invincible first seed that no one can beat because Brock Purdy's this amazing pickup of Mr. Irrelevance at quarterback with a great genius play caller. They're starting to fall apart to the point where their vaunted D-line, they were shopping for pass rushers, and they've obviously got one, as we'll come on to later. The Philadelphia Eagles, great offense, defense is aging. They're not invincible anymore. As you said earlier in this, when we mentioned that this win gave us a second seed, that first seed is within our grasp. And with who we've got left on the schedule, we can take hold of it and we can get that home field advantage through the playoffs and that first round bye to get a bit healthier. So if we need an extra week for Houston or CD Juice, as it's now known, to come back, we've got it. We've got it. We can, for once, we want to be playing meaningless games in December because we've already wrapped the division up. The first seed is in our grasp, and we can fuck around and find out a bit. We can play Corby Solstar a bit more to see what we got from him at guard and give Howe a bit of more rest, or Glasgow a bit more rest at guard. We can start playing Antoine Green a bit more, find out what we got from him. We can give Gibbs a few more carries to get him that momentum to carry in the playoffs. We are getting close to being one of those kind of teams. and it's going to scare the shit out of everyone else in our conference.
They did say on the coverage yesterday, don't be surprised if the playoffs run through Detroit, and I'm absolutely here for that type of conversation. Before we go and find our finest Cuban cigars to hand out to the people, there was a question in the chat that I just want to address before then. Mike Marine said, how many forced missed tackles did Gibbs have in this game in total, and what does Montgomery have? So just to address that quickly, David Montgomery has 22 forced missed tackles so far this season on 94 attempts. So that is 1 every 4.5 carries, if my mental maths is about right. Jahmyr Gibbs has 16, but he has only 76 attempts. So that is 1 every 4.7 carries. So they're very similar in terms of that. But Gibbs started off the season against KC with 6, and he had 7 yesterday against Vegas on 26 attempts. I mean, that's really good. 1 every 3. So, and to be honest, I mean, there was one rep in particular where it took 7 tackles to take him down. It was ridiculous. So, Gibbs is starting to really make it happen in that regard. Right. Cigars, people. And, is anyone going to take the low-hanging fruit, Ryan?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's one person in particular who probably deserves a cigar for yesterday.
Well, my first cigar is gonna be Colby Salsdale.
Oh, pulled it.
Why?
I love that you took Ashes because I knew he was going there.
You know me too well.
I didn't even notice him, and that is the biggest compliment I can say to a 5th-round rookie guard. Didn't know he was there. It could have been Vitaly. It could have been Jonah. Could have been Graham. Could have been any of them, because I could not tell the difference, and that's probably the best compliment you can really call him. I think he got like 1 penalty. I think he got like 1 holding call. And that was like the only time I heard his name called all day. And for the positions I were worried about the most were the guards. And that it did worry me that we'd struggle to go behind them. Pretty much immaculate. So yeah, he can share it with our seeker. They can take talks and pass it around like a duchy.
I mean, apart from the holding call which wiped out the horse collar, I didn't notice him either. I thought he was terrific. Ash, your turn, my friend.
Since my one was stolen from it, I'll go for a slightly less lower hanging fruit than the obvious one, who I've already honoured with my name anyway. So it goes without bearing witness that he's going to get a cigar. But Decker, as I mentioned earlier, there is some parts of the fan base who think he's not really Pro Bowl level. He's okay, but nothing great. The dude came out and allowed one pressure in this kind of game. Like, he is not. He's probably not ever going to have the ceiling that Saul does. Or Saul can be the best tackle in the league, but Decker's a damn fine left tackle in this league, and he came out yesterday and showed why. Like, he's really improved. Something I've noticed in the past year or so is his run blocking. Like before, great pass blocker, but you didn't really want to run it off his left-hand shoulder because he couldn't really run block. He's really improved that over the past year or so with Hank. So the fact that now it's pretty much indistinguishable. He's probably still want to run it to the right because Saul on the move is just a beast. But Decker can hold his own in the run game now, and it's showing. He has a few slip-ups, everyone does, but for the most part, he's Mr. Reliable, so he definitely deserves a cigar from me.
Fine, I'll just address the elephant in the room and give it to Gibbs. I mean, come on. We got to give Gibbs at least 1, if not 2. He really just got it done yesterday. And, you know, if Reynolds is in the game as lead back, the last time he led the team himself when we had both Gibbs and Montgomery out, he had 15 yards in that game. It was against a much better run defense, but the thing about Reynolds is that when you know it's just him and there's nothing remarkable about him, he just does what he does. I do feel like it's easier to scheme up against that. I never want to see him as running back 1. But he didn't have to be. And that's because Jameer Gibbs came in and just blew the bloody doors off, shall we say, to coin a phrase. What?
Love this Alan
He
job.
did. Yes, I know. Yeah, the jump cut ability that he has is ridiculous. The touchdown he had was not the only time that he did it, and he actually, his runs off right tackle were also really striking for a similar reason. It looked like what he did, but the misdirection caused by going up the gut and then bouncing outside is what caused the touchdown. But a few times he gashed them for about 20 yards running off right tackle with Sewell, as you rightly say. His vision is just so elite because he's getting himself to the same positions that DeAndre Swift used to get him to. But where Swift would get 8, he's scoring a 27-yard touchdown. Like, that is the difference. And that is why we've got someone like this in the team. And he's proving it. I don't care where he was drafted. I hope that one day someone says, maybe he did justify that. Because I feel like he's on the way. And if he keeps backing it up like this, there will be chatter starting to come back. Maybe it was worth it. So he fully deserves his. Ryan, have you got a second?
I can't believe I'm saying this. Riley Patterson. He had a career day as a Lion. Like, when he was called upon, 80% of the time he was money. If he misses 2 or 3 of those kicks, it's potentially a very different game. Like you say, so I will overlook the close miss because the game we were pretty much in control at point. But we called upon him, he was needed, and he delivered. And
he had a 50-yarder too, which is what we said he couldn't do.
He had nearly 52 yards. He was nearly set a career record. And yeah, I still don't trust him. I don't trust him in a game winning situation, but it's nice to not need your kicker to win games. That's a kind of a good place to be in, and that's where we are. He kind of just comes in, delivers, keeps momentum. But yeah, as of right now, his job is safe. But we do need to sort out a long snapper for him.
Yes, we do. Ash, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Patterson, but for me, it's a defensive guy, and we can all guess who it's going to be. It's my guy. It's 31. It's Kirby. Like, when we needed him, admittedly, again, poor play from Jimmy, but we needed to wrestle some momentum back after that fumble. And he just goes and snatches the ball out the air. Admittedly, yeah, boneheaded play to bring it out, but it's just his little youthful excitement of getting his first pick on the season. He's like, I want to return this for as much as I can. He wants to do his best Marcus Peters impression before Marcus Peters did it. I can back it. He was good in tackling. So there were some plays where they were directly targeting him in the way when he was Jacobs against the second level. And he just wrapped up and tackled. I know run defense isn't ever going to be a strong suit. It wasn't in college, as we all know, pointed out. It probably won't be so much in the pros, but it's not so much where it's a glaring weakness anymore. He can be, when he gets to him having to make a tackle to stop a 20-yard game, like a 10, 20-yard game going for a touchdown, he's able to do that now. Even when he makes some poor angles, there was a couple of plays that me and Matt both spotted in the stream in the first half where, yeah, if his form was a bit off because the angle he was taking, it would have been touchdowns. He was able to tackle well and stop him. So for me, Kirby gets a cigar.
The last one for me, I'm going to go with Jerry. Jerry Jacobs had himself maybe his best day as a Lion. And, he was up against Jacoby Myers most of the day. And that's not an easy call. Like, Myers has made a career out of basically being just criminally underrated. He's not an exceptional receiver, but he's good at basically everything. And Jerry just blanketed him. I don't even think that the catch Myers got was when Jacobs was on coverage with him. So he didn't allow a catch, apparently. He got 2 tackles. One, I think, was assisted. One was solo. And he did get a pressure as well, but didn't notice him, apart from the fact that he was getting in the face of the quarterback sometimes, which is really nice to see. Like, I'm all about him as a person, as a character on the field. People rally around him. He's a leader on that team. Wouldn't surprise me to see him being called a captain next year when he gets re-signed, if he gets re-signed. Low-key, he is emblematic of everything this team is about, and it puts a smile on my face to see him on the field. So, glad he's back and healthy and performing well. But I said it was my last one. It's not. Ali McNeil as well. Just very, very quickly, run defense wasn't excellent, obviously, in that Jacobs drive, but the way that he's developed his pass rush technique is not to be sniffed at. The counter play with a spin move for the first sack was beautiful. And I know Ryan kind of said, they were sort of giving up at that point, but the technique was exceptional. So I'm really, really pleased for him on that one. Right. That concludes our discussion on the game. Just turn briefly to the remaining games in week 8 before we talk about the trade deadline. And so, are there any games that you guys watched on Sunday that you particularly enjoyed or didn't enjoy? I mean, I thought Jets Giants was an absolute masterpiece.
Oh,
personally.
I completely agree. I'm with you on that Sickos game. For me, one of the games I really enjoyed watching it because it was just nice to sit there with Red Zone, playing a bit of Madden, trying to sort all that out, having a bit of fun. I really liked the Broncos Chiefs game. Just to be able for that defense to be able to go from giving up 70 to the Dolphins to holding the Chiefs to 9, they've really got something there. And the offense, they were able to churn some stuff out. Like I know Javonte Williams got like 30 carries and only got about 80 yards, but those were hard fought 80 yards and he was consistently churning. So that was nice to see.
Ryan, did you have any games on Sunday that you particularly enjoyed watching?
I need to refresh my memory.
No, so I'll go then while you have a look. For me, I loved watching Eagles Commanders just to watch Sam Howell kind of actually start balling out. Eagles got 1 sack in this game against the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. I mean, they did a good job protecting him, and Howell did a good job getting the ball out. And they had a 17-10 lead at the half. It was 17 apiece at the end of the third quarter. They were very much in this game the whole way through before the Eagles got a 2-score lead late, which was a real shame. But it gave me hope that the Eagles are a beatable side. I know Eagles Commanders is always a weird one, but Hurts looked good. For a neutral, it was just an enjoyable game of good offensive play to watch. The defense on the show was good as well, despite there being 69 points scored in the game. I thought the defense was pretty good too. So, just an all-around nice game to watch. Ryan?
I liked watching the Panthers get a win. I feel for their fans, and it was a hard win against what I consider to be a good Houston side. They are no slouches, like I say. Devoid of talent, everything that they've got is very naive and young. But it was no gimmick. Panthers, like I say, battled consistently. All their stars showed out when they needed to. And in the end, good game-winning drive. And it's two teams that I think have got bright futures. I do think that they're doing it in the right way, not selling prized assets. Even though they get ridiculous offers, they dig their heels in, and they will see that. And Stroud on the other side is doing a really stellar job with a very sketchy supporting cast, I suppose. Like I say, it is a bit of an odd job. A lot of them are very young, so those two, like I say, put on a good defensive battle. And I think they'll both go in places in the next 2 or 3 years.
Some other really nice performances in there. I thought Geno looked really good against one of the best defenses the NFL's ever seen. I thought that Burrow looked fantastic for the Bengals against the 49ers. That's one of the best performances of the season. Burrow just put his balls on the table and just like, here you go, I'm giving it to you. There are a few design runs in there for Burrow, and I was like, holy shit, what is it? What are they doing with him when he's like still slightly crocked? But none of it. Like, he was just, Big Dick Joe. I mean, it doesn't work, but I'm going with it. Dolphins were fun against the Pats as well. Like, Tua's just playing unbelievable football right now. There were some really interesting games. Even the Titans gave themselves life as well by beating the Falcons.
Yeah.
Who's going to win the NFC South? It's such a shit show.
I still think Jags. I mean, we didn't mention the fact that the Jags...
NFC South.
Oh,
AFC South. Yeah. Jags are winning the AFC South, no doubt.
Easily, yeah. NFC South. It'd be one of those, if you remember, oh God, I can remember, I think it's 2015. The Panthers won the NFC South with a losing 8-9 record.
Might have even been 7-10.
Might have been 7. Yeah, something like 7. Yes, 7-9. That would have been it. 'Cause obviously, you didn't have the 17th game back then. It's one of those seasons. So I'm here for it. It's going to be fun. I love to watch it. The one we haven't mentioned, but was very fun until near the end when they kind of cocked it up. The Cards nearly beating the Ravens.
Yeah.
I know it makes us look a bit bad because obviously what happened, but everyone has a bad day. Obviously, the fact that they were nearly like one onside kick conversion away from potentially beating the Ravens, madness. Absolute madness.
Right. We have one question from the chat, which was Jonah Jackson. With his recent injury, has that affected how much we might be re-signing him for, if we re-sign him at all? Ryan, what do you think about Jonah? Because he was a clear re-sign for me, but, you know, him being out's not ideal for his stock.
No, the waters have gone a bit murky with Jonah. Every week he misses, his future becomes more in doubt. I was with you before the season, like say 4 weeks ago. Where's his contract? Is it on the printer? Is it ready to sign? And I still think he's a long-term piece, but I don't know. He's the value is now kind of questionable, and I would like it. The longer it goes on, the more I think they let him test the market, or they think we can get a replacement, or we can do without him, and that worries me a little. But if he misses enough weeks that we get him at a steal or below market value on a long-term deal, then maybe it works in our favour. I'm still firmly on the side of I'm not ready to lose our left guard just yet.
Ash, correct me if you don't have the same feeling as I do on this. It feels a little bit like Graham Glasgow the first time he was here.
Yeah, I can feel that instead of being the bloody guard rotation, sends shivers down my spine to think about that. But yeah, just it might be someone where his value might be higher than how the team sees him. So like, I've just, as you can probably hear, I was clicking away on my keyboard trying to pull up the guard contracts. He's gone from me kind of getting that Wyatt Teller to Ben Powers kind of level, where it's like top 10 guard contracts, about 14 million average a year. He's gone down now. He's probably down to about 10, which is like Nate Davis signing for the Bears level. Still top 15, but still, that's probably where the team sees him, but it's where he sees himself. Like, hopefully he can get healthy over the bye. And this is a good time to discuss contracts is always the bye, because obviously you don't have to focus that much on like game planning. So maybe it'll give us a time for Holmes and the front office to sit down with his agents and thrash it out. But at the same time, I can see us just turning around and saying, okay, you've had this injury. We need to see it at the end of the year now, just evaluate then. And it might be where we might never be able to meet in the middle, and you'll test out free agency, go somewhere else. And then we might have to either look in the free agent market ourselves for someone of his caliber, or dare I say it, draft someone in day two.
It feels like that might be the way it's going right now. I certainly have some foreboding about it. Let's move on to the Lions trade, because there has been one trade for the Lions. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything else as the window has slammed shut. Ryan, Donovan Peoples-Jones traded with the Browns for a 2025 6th round pick. Let me just read you some of his stats so far in his career. So he's 6'2", 204 pounds. Obviously went to Michigan, so he's very conscious of what it means to be in state. He's got 1,837 yards as a Cleveland Brown on 117 receptions. So he's averaging almost 16 yards a reception. He's got 8 touchdowns. He's got a 61% catch percentage. But his usage this year has fallen off a cliff. He's gone from 20 targets as a rookie, 58 in year 2, 96 in year 3, and suddenly 18 halfway through the season so far. So it's clear they weren't utilising him. It's a bit of a crowded room there. 2025 6th, do you think it's fair compo for him, and where do you see him fitting in with the Lions?
No. I feel like we've been sold someone they were happy to discard. The move for me it does not do anything for me. Like last year, the stats, good, but kind of irrelevant. If you're a total non-factor in a bad offense coming off a great year, that's not a good sign. His grade for run blocking is crap. The numbers just don't look good. And for me, that's something we do value. Honestly, given the option of don't do anything at all or do this, I wouldn't have done anything at all. I just don't see really where he fits in. I don't see who he takes targets from. Like you say, who is he splitting time with? Because I don't trust him in the blocking game. And I do feel like it's another move where, oh, he's from Michigan, bring him home. That usual crap. It seems to carry weight here. And that's kind of getting a bit tedious over the last few years, if I'm honest. The kids from Kansas, I don't think half of the people are asked about him like they're pretending to be on Twitter. One good year, don't do a right lot for me. I've got strong opinions about what's happened today and what I would have liked to happen. This, for me, feels like one to try to appease the fans, and it's not appeased. I am lack of appeased.
I'll come on to your thoughts on that in just a second, but Ash, do you agree about DPJ? Because your reaction was not in keeping with Ryan's on our Discord channel.
I like the move. I've been calling for a while for just another X-style receiver, someone that's like a Josh Reynolds, that's a bigger body, can do contested catches, basically replacing Marvin's role in this offense. And I agree, some of the run blocking doesn't look as good, 53.9 grade this season, but the pass blocking, which is something the team also values, 77.9. That's pretty good. For context, Josh Reynolds, 61.6 pass block, 68.9 run block. Sounds pretty decent, average. And then you look at Marvin, who is, in my mind, that is who DPJ is replacing in a way, taking a sort of contested catch situations, red zone opportunities, and that 43.3 run blocking grade. And that's someone who obviously I was held in the preseason as, that's the run blocking. The fact that aside from his last game in Tampa where he had a nearly 80 grade in run blocking, he was consistently below average in run blocking. So it's not like, I think it's more the team values the principle of you doing it, because as we all know, PFF can sometimes be a bit off of their blocking grade. Like the fact that obviously Sorsdal was one of our cigars this week and he had one of the lowest grades on the team probably shows it. But for me, it's just the skill set rather than production, because I agree, kind of disappointing his production's fallen off this season until you see that the fact they basically drafted his replacement in the third round with Cedric Tillman because he's on this last year of his contract. So they've thought, let's get Tillman, got his replacement in-house cheap, and then can phase DPJ out the offense slowly and bring in Tillman. And Tillman's just hit the ground running for them. So now they're looking to move him for cheap. And for a 2025 6, not even one in this draft, it's the next draft. That's barely anything. That's just about what we gave to LA for Michael Brockers. Did we really fuss about that, giving up that for Michael Brockers?
We did with the contract, but yes. In
the contract, yes. But the fact it's so little, Brockers did not call for us other than to stand on the side and be a good leader. DPJ does have the potential to come in and do things for us. Like, I don't want to pump him up too much and say, he could completely change us, but imagine if you had someone of his body type and skill set yesterday in the red zone. Maybe some of the play calls could have been different. We could try throwing fades, throwing hitches and that to move the ball, because we'll have someone who is a big body other than Josh Reynolds to throw at. So I'm quietly optimistic with the move. It's certainly better than some of the other receiver trades we've done in the past couple of years. Cough, cough, Trinity.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in between you both. I see very much a role for him on this offense, and it isn't the Marvin Jones role. I know that he has made his money sort of as a Z receiver, but he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's 2 inches taller than Marvin, and I do see him as a bit more of a Josh Reynolds type of receiver who is masquerading as our X receiver rather than as the Z receiver. At Z, we've got obviously JMO, we've got Khalif. In the slot, we've got Amon-Ra and Khalif. And we've got Green, who can also do that Z role. Whereas in X, we haven't really had anyone that can do what Josh Reynolds can do. So now he becomes the backup for that role. And that's not taking snaps away from anyone. But as he rightly says, it's a 2025 sixth. And this is the last year of his contract. It's going to cost the Lions $1.5 million on the cap this year. So basically, sweet fuck all. But if Josh Reynolds goes down and Peoples-Jones comes in, I mean, the guy... In the year that he got 96 targets, he caught 61 of those balls for 839 yards in a season. Like, that ain't nothing in a really bad Cleveland Browns offense last year. Like, it was not anything fun to watch, and he carried them. So, he's done it before in a crap offense. Goff is going to give him more opportunities to do stuff. I don't think it's changing the world. But, you know, in a position where we don't have a backup for Josh Reynolds, I think it provides us with some insurance. I mean, it's the sort of thing where I can see him catching a pass in the divisional round as his first touchdown for the Lions to win the game, you know. And if that's the difference it makes, I think it's entirely worth it. So that's Donovan Peoples-Jones. Talking about the rest of the trade deadline, Ryan, you said you had some strong thoughts, so I'm going to give you the floor to rant.
I'm frustrated because where I see the Lions is we are the perfect rental market. We have got long-term contracts that we're about to hand out. We don't need to bring in players that are going to get loads of money. But I'm fine with that. Like I said, when I know we've got 2 third-rounders and I see Chase Young, who is only going to get $560,000 for the rest of the year, and we could have given our higher third, or made at least match the offer. We don't have to do it, but bring him in. Like I say, potentially, that is the kind of move that you should be all over. Like I say, when the Rams brought in Von Miller, like I say, on that trade, he helped them win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying Lions are a Super Bowl team, but it's that kind of move, the rental, that's got huge upside and got little flaw. If you bring in Chase Young, he picks up an injury, and he barely plays all. I don't care. A third rounder for me is a throwaway. The Lions have thrown away second rounders in recent years. They've tossed them and they've been a waste. And at $600,000 means no. If he plays really well, and I say, well, we got to the NFC Championship, we lost. You played really well, but I don't want to re-sign you, so I'm just going to let you walk anyway. Third round pick, well spent, still only cost me $600,000. Like that. How do you like, yes, and everyone's saying, yeah, we got 6 sacks yesterday. Yeah, against one of the league's worst offenses and a terrible offensive line. But when we come up against those big lines we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and Hutch is getting smacked by a tight end and he's getting held to shit, no one on the other side is doing anything. No one is making a difference. Generating a little bit of pressure. Are they getting a sack? No, not getting a sniff. So that's the only issue I think of, that I just don't agree that people are saying like, oh, we're not there yet. There's no moves, like say, we're not going all in. Like I said, I would not have given Monte. Sweat's going to get a big old deal, like $60 or $70 million a year. I'm not after that kind of thing. Like I say, like Uche, a Young, I would have prioritized that kind of move. Like I say, a rental for me would have been where I was looking at on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, this is the most contentious thing ever. And you know, if we fall at the first playoff hurdle, people will come straight back to the trade deadline and be like, oh, well, you didn't make the move. Could have made the move that could have got us past the game. So today, someone will find some way to throw this in Brad Holmes' face, I'm sure. I would have just done nothing if we were instead of DPJ. But yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. So I guess we're going to monitor how well Chase Young does in the next couple of games, because the 49ers are masking over problems with an elite defensive line. I can see that. I can see the route they're going down. They're just going all out pressure. Just wreck a quarterback to make up for what is a leaky secondary. Yeah. So we'll see. I think we're closer than some people think we are, and we could have afforded to gamble a day 2 pick. But I see why they're erring on the side of caution.
Ash, what do you make of what we've done at the deadline? We got one deal done, but maybe we left a little on the table.
Yeah, so I'm going to piggyback, but not with a defensive line. I wanted a vet corner, Kendall Fuller, Dante Jackson, because we saw last week what happens if one of other starters goes down, when we have to start playing Will Harris in significant snaps. I'm probably the biggest Will Harris apologist on this podcast. I don't want to see him getting consistent large amount of snaps. So I would have sent. I'm happy with the DPJ trade. I'm happy we at least made some move to bring in something just to give us that little push. But I also wanted a bit on the defense because for me, as great as the defense has been the past couple of weeks, and I did big it up earlier, we are a couple of inches away from it all falling apart. So I wanted some reinforcement there. Defensive line, completely agree. Get someone else in just to bring in that rotation because Kamish is doing great in that facilitator role. Pascal's coming up to speed. I know the team believes in him, but would have been nice to bring someone else in just to, as you say, help Hutch because Hutch is doing it all by himself. He's basically our Max Crosby. But the good thing with the Raiders is they have that rotation on the other side of Crosby to keep it fresh so they can't just keep double teaming Crosby. That's what we needed to do. So I would have happily accepted a Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Joshua Chase, you say. But I also wanted someone on the back end just as cover, even if it means them trading that third for Dante Jackson or Kendall Fuller to sit on the bench. Because if Jerry misses another game, if heaven forbid Sutton misses time, that secondary is going to fall apart again and going to give up big yards. And that's not what we want to happen. So I would have happily accepted a trade for a veteran corner as well. Just as that rental so we can restock. When it comes to the draft, we can draft guys. I'm really high, to spoiler alert, for probably preview for a couple of months' time, the Wake Forest corner, who's a borderline first-round pick. I watched him this week do pretty damn well against Keon Coleman, who is arguably the wide receiver 2 in this class. He held him pretty well in check for the most part. We can get him, and that we need to start just having people back there because injuries always happen. So I wanted a bit of reinforcement there. So I would have liked a bit more, but if they have a plan and it all comes together, we'll look back and say, okay, yeah, we can understand. But as you say, Ryan, if we do make the the championship game and something happens and we could have used that extra defensive line piece, if there's injuries in the secondary and we give up 150 yards to Deebo Samuel, we'll look back and be like, okay, maybe, yeah, we could have spent that pick on a veteran corner or something to help us in this situation rather than trying to keep banking on the lottery tickets. Because as much as we're good at winning up those scratch cards, constantly getting the £5 on a £1 scratch card, there's going to be a time where we're going to pull one of the scratch cards out and it's going to be a dud. And we'll look back and be like, could this have been this pound be better used than buying a scratch card?
I'm low-key quite pleased that they've just not gone and done anything significant. I'm kind of with Ryan in thinking that they're not as far away as people think. But I don't think there's anyone they could bring in this year that I think it's worth it to chuck the pick away for one of the elite drafters in this league to not have that pick. Like, third round pick to chuck away for Chase Young. Does it deliver us a championship? Probably not. But it might deliver us Kirby Joseph Mark II. That is where he was drafted, roughly speaking. And Kirby's going to be great for us for 4 years before he gets re-signed or whatever happens to him. That could be our starting left guard next year if Jonah walks. Like, that's where you kind of draft those sorts of players. And we're really good at finding those players. And that's cheap production for 4 years in that draft pick. Now, Chase Young is obviously a really good talent. He's been a top 10 pass rusher this year. He stayed healthy. It's tough, isn't it? Because if you lose a playoff game, the first one, like Ryan says, you probably rightly get blamed for not making a move. But my big fear was that they were going to sell the farm for a non-quarterback. Like, Max Crosby is starting with 3 first-round picks. Oh, yeah, we'll do it anyway. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. Let's not do this. I had a very heated argument with someone earlier today who basically wanted to sell everything we had to go for it this year. And I get it. We've been starved for so long. But I was trying to tell him, look, with how young this team is, our cap situation and how much they're valued in terms of draft capital, we can sell 1 or 2 players each year in trades to re-up the youth and otherwise carry everyone else's vets. And this team as it is could be competitive for the next decade. Like, it really could. We've set ourselves up so well. And people forget how much luck comes into the playoffs. Like, the individual games. The most important thing is getting back to the dance every single year to give yourself a chance of doing it, because sometimes you're a 10-7 team that's the 7 seed and you go all the way because you're fundamentally a good team in a lot of good teams. Or, you know, you're the number 1 seed like Tennessee was a couple of years ago and you're dumped out the first chance you can because you're not that good. But the most important thing is that you get there. And by selling the farm to risk everything on the one go, like, you reap what you sow. The Rams are better than expected this year, but they're not going anywhere fast. Tampa, I mean, they're competitive in their division, but they're shit, really. Like, you have a look at the teams that have sold the farm. Buffalo might be in trouble in the coming years because they've sold the farm, but they don't look that good. Like, teams who've sold the farm, yeah, maybe it works out for 1 year. It worked for LA and it worked for Tampa, but they could be in for a decade of pain because they've put themselves in a bad cap situation, and I just don't want that for us. We've suffered long enough. I want to be competitive for a long time. So am I willing to trade that for not risking a 3rd round pick on something? Probably not. If we went for Chase Young, I'd be pleased, but I'm low-key pleased we haven't gone for anyone else either. Whatever. Someone has mentioned, Mike the Marine, in fact, has said, everyone keeps forgetting that we should have pushed the chips in the middle of the table because the Lions are going to have a tougher schedule next year based on our record at the end of this season. And I've been trying to find out who we have. So, obviously, we have the North. Hopefully, that continues to be weak. We've drawn the NFC West next year, which is not ideal with Seattle and LA, and Arizona are going to have whatever they have out of things. And, yeah. The AFC South. So that's the Jags, Houston, the Colts, lots of young quarterbacks in there. The Titans are going to be interestingly shit, but the other 3 could be really competitive. Houston are on the way up for sure. I like what Stroud has done this year. Then we have the Eagles, the winner of the NFC South, not that great, and then the extra AFC opponent is going to be one of Miami or Buffalo. That is going to be a really, really fucking tough schedule next year. And we do need to get some big pieces. I would argue I want to put that capital in the hands of Brad Holmes in Detroit this year. That's where I want to live. I mean, if we're shit next year, but we've got the young capital and, you know, we go 500 and everyone goes, yeah, well, but it was tough next year. We've got the 3rd place schedule the year afterwards. And then we're looking great again. Like, it swings and roundabouts, but I'm building for the long term. What do you guys reckon? Because it is a thought. You know, we are going to have a much tougher schedule next year. And maybe we haven't got the talent to live with... You have a look at what the Eagles are doing this year. And they're like back-to-back doing like KC and then the Bengals and then the Miami Dolphins. And it's like, shit, that we haven't had anything like that this year.
See, for me, I agree. I'm not for selling the farm. I'm not for doing it in LA. But to use one of the teams that is perennially in the playoffs, always competing, Eagles, look what they did with Bayard. They know how to balance getting stuff that maybe pushes you over the hill this year, but also balancing being able to draft well and have the capital to do it. So, yeah, I'm not saying, we should have sold everything for Brian Birds or Max Crosby, but throwing away a late day 2, early day 3 pick for someone who could be that difference piece between going out of the divisional round or potentially winning the conference championship, making those kind of plays. I can see us, if that happened, let me put it this way. So if, let's say, okay, yeah, you have the choice right now between a 4th round pick being, so we get it and we draft a guard, let's say Zach Sinter from Michigan, who is seen as a good guard prospect in his class, if not great, could be there in the 4th, or Kendall Fuller, who, if Jerry Jacobs needs to miss a game later in the season, he's able to step in and play. Or if not, when you want to do some weird dime looks where you have 3 outside corners in, because let's say we're playing the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb's in the slot, and you need someone really good just to cover him, and you don't think Branch can handle his physicality, you have him come in and do that. It could be the difference. I think for me, it's more about I agree. Never sell the farm, never do the LA or Tampa approach of going all in on 1 year and then absorbing the devastating consequences for 5 years. But I want that balance where we still are trying to maximize our potential this year while also making sure we're not selling the future, if that makes sense. So I'm happy throwing away a third round pick, fourth round pick, a fifth round pick, those kind of picks for a veteran who could be that missing piece we needed to make a real push this year, while also, as I say, keeping draft picks to make sure we still are picking teams.
See, it's difficult. When I look back at the last 12 years, in that hypothetical scenario where I'm offered, you make the Super Bowl, you win or you lose, and then you're terrible for the next 10 years. I do it. I take it and I suffer. And whether I win or lose, like I say, I take them next 10 years because I've had 8 terrible years of the last 12 years. So it's like, it's not new. For me, the measuring stick of this team is how long can we keep this offensive line together? That is the one thing that's always in the back of my mind. Like you say, we are predicated that this team is built around the O-line. Like I say, it's never played together more than like a handful of games, but just having it, if selling the farm 1 year because you know it's on the verge of potentially splitting up, like I say, that is will always be the conundrum. Like, that's why I'm not ready to. I can't lose Jonah just yet. I can't have the window open and then be like rambling for a guard. I'm thinking I want draft picks because we need a right guard. Like I said, I've got to replace Vitaly. I can't trust him anymore. The back, the age, it's just going to be a thing. This is the thing he's going to live and play with now, I reckon, till he calls it a day, because that's kind of just what happens. But yeah, I'm never selling the house. People saying like, oh, let's give him a first round pick and Jameson Williams from Brian Burns. Or let's give 2 first round picks and a 4th for Max Crosby. I've told many people today, like, you're in cloud cuckoo land. The Rams couldn't get Brian Burns for 2 firsts and a third. Why would they take a first rounder, Jameson Williams, who has looked not very good and not up to speed, and a day 2 pick? Like, how would that ever convince them to take it? And Max Crosby, the Raiders aren't selling him. You can offer them 3 first round picks and they still might say no, because he's the only player that actually shows any fire or passion and gives 99% or 93% of their snaps on the defensive down. He's just not coming, no matter how much he loves Detroit. It's not happening. But yeah, we're never selling the future until we're pretty much sure we're there.
Yeah, I think the thing with the O-line is a really good point. And actually, this person I was talking about selling the farm with made the same point you kind of did. And I thought about it, and it's like, within 2 seasons, 4/5 of the line might be gone. I know Ash mentioned why we're so quick to get rid of Decker, but next year is the last year of his contract. And maybe we just say, thank you for your service and let him go. I can't see it, but it's in the realm of possibility. So Decker could go, we might not re-sign Jonah, Ragnar could medically retire, and who knows what we're doing at right guard, and then we just have Penne. Like, that is not unrealistic. It's not likely, but it's not unrealistic. I mean, I really hope that Jonah and Graham come back. I think Graham has proven himself to be a fantastic re-signing, and if he continues to take team-friendly deals, he can retire a Lion for me. And then you've got all 5 sewn up for a while if Decker re-signs too. So get it done. Just get it done. You haven't traded for anyone. Now's the time to back you guys with deals.
Yeah, we've got the second most. I think we've got like this, the third most expensive offense. Got 150 millimeters in the O-line, like the second most expensive O-line in football. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't worry me. It doesn't scare me. I don't care if we put every penny we have into keeping 4/5 of it together for the next 4 or 5 years. Like I say, I'm all right with that, because that is the bread and butter of everything we do. And I agree. I'm offering Graham Glasgow a deal now. After the buyout, I will talk to him and say, where's your head at? We're halfway. I'm pretty sure he wants to stay here. He looks happy. He seems happy. I cannot see him not being here next year. In fact, he's had such a crucial role already. No chance he's going anywhere.
Yeah.
He'll take a good deal. But yeah, it's always in the back of my mind. It's like I say, it's not unrealistic, but it's a scary thought.
Right, we've got a Redeemer poll done on Twitch, so I'm going to run that as soon as Mike has identified exactly what he wants to poll. Let's turn our attention to the rest of the NFL in terms of the trade deadline. Rasul Douglas from the Packers goes to the Bills with a 5th round pick in return for getting a 3rd, both in 2024. Was an All-Pro 2 years ago after being signed off the street, but he's not been great so far in the last couple of years. Boys, what do you make of this? I mean, the in-division getting slightly weaker, and the trade capital being dealt is not world-ending at all.
He was terrible against Minnesota on Sunday. I watched the game. He had a clanger. He did not look good. Buffalo's so weird. Like, the fact they just kind of given up on Courier. They've just flattened up, said, we're just not interested in you more. And they didn't deal him, did they? They couldn't get a buyer. But go get Rasul Douglas, that is weird. The Bills are such a weird team, the business they do. It just baffles them. Like you say, giving Rashan Gary that huge deal, who, to fair, I would have gladly traded for. I'd have brought Rashan Gary in. But yeah, no, they're tying down that piece. But yeah, it's like I said, Darnell Savage is hurt. They've now got rid of Rasul Douglas. Jarek Alexander does everything he can, but yeah, the Packers are in tear it down mode for a lot of it. Like I say, a lot of it in the last year or two is they are trying to claw back capital. They're not going to find a Rasul Douglas replacement with that pick. So it just feels like they've just cut in their losses. He could turn into another All-Pro. That'd be the Bills. That just their luck. But for me, it doesn't move the needle with Buffalo either.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So I know that Experiment mentioned it. It seems like they were read about. It's been pretty much confirmed by NFL insiders. They were going heavily after Jalen Johnson from the Bears. The Bears were refusing to sell for a certain price, so they pivoted to Rasul Douglas. It's that veteran kind of thing where, obviously, as you said, they've given up on Kyle Elam. I'm kind of happy that I was not so high on him on that draft process. Like Stinky Gator, looks, it got the athleticism, hasn't been shown out. Packers are really betting on Eric Stokes. Sounds kind of familiar. Athletic cornerback playing for SEC schools and production. Hasn't been worked out in the NFL. They're really betting on that. But at the same time, we're talking about Joe Barry defense here. Like, he could probably have Aaron Donald, Chase Young, Nick Bosa, all these, and probably make them look bang average or worse. So happy for Douglas to kind of get out of Dodge before everything starts blowing up in his face. So yeah, doesn't really move the needle for either teams really, but yeah, it's just one of them where both get like a C plus, B minus.
Right, 49ers acquiring Chase Young has angered a lot of Lions fans. Obviously, he goes from the Commanders to the 49ers. 49ers have acquired him for a 2024 third round pick. Obviously, Washington is selling. We'll come on to the other one in a minute. But boys, that feels cheap-ish, but it also feels like it represents the fact that Chase Young wants more money than the league are willing to offer him. This feels like a rental.
Yeah, feels like that, as Ryan mentioned earlier, the sort of Von Miller to the Rams move where they think they can go all in on this season and think they can cover up a leaky secondary because they were also supposedly in for a corner that never happened. So they were just like, yeah, just get as much pressure as we can. And hopefully we can force the QBs to either throw the ball away or make a mistake in less than 2 seconds before one of their receivers can get open.
This is the kind of move. If the 49ers win the Super Bowl, their GM wins head coach of the year because they're like, that was genius. Like that was just what we needed. If they don't win the Super Bowl and he struggles, like picks up injuries, they'll say, well, that wasn't very good. Why didn't you just go give it to a cornerback and address an actual need instead of trying to mask over a fancy name? That's kind of where they're at, yeah. The 49ers are not paying him. I'll say now, he's not getting a deal there. And the tag is, I believe the tag is at like $21 million. I don't see him getting that. I understand, like say, Washington have basically just said, we can't afford to pay you guys, so we're shopping you all. But it does feel cheap, but Yeah, obviously they've gauged the market that Chase was going to ask for way too much money. I was always under the impression that if they sold one, they'd keep the other, but they must have. There's been some sort of breakdown in early negotiations. The fact that they so quickly decided, actually, no, screw it, we'll get rid of you both. The Washington, they're not going anywhere, are they? I suppose they're not. But second and third rounders, well, we know we've had our second round troubles. They ain't surefire hits, so they really have taken a huge gamble.
They have, and I've quickly pulled it up. It's 20.4 million. It's also the first time I think in like a good couple of years that the defensive tackle tag's higher than the defensive end tackle tag. I mean, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I know it's kind of spoilers to sort of group in the other move that happened on that Washington defensive line, but as I said, masterclass. If it all works out, John will get executive of the year, look great. If it doesn't, then yeah, they'll be like, yeah, could have spent it on a corner, but maybe the corner market just wasn't there because there's all these names being banded around. As mentioned, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Elam from the Bills themselves, trading him away, Dante Jackson, Kendall Fuller, all these guys. Nothing really came of it. So maybe it's just the value of the corners to the teams themselves was higher than the value of that the other teams were willing to give up to get them. So could be a masterstroke. Him and Nick Bosa coming back together could really work out for the 49ers. But as you say, it could also kind of blow up in their face because teams can just separate quickly from them and get the ball out quickly and they get beaten.
I've got a poll live in Twitch. I've put the link in the YouTube chat if you want to vote in this. It's going to be up for the next few minutes. Who do you most want to re-sign out of these? Jonah Jackson, 3 years, $42 million. Graham Glasgow, 1 year, $3.5 million. Jared Goff, 4 years, $204 million. Or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce, 2 years, $16 million. Go and have your vote. If you're in the YouTube chat, just pop over and get a vote in before coming back. We just want to have a look and see what you guys think. I think they have the rough market values. Any dissent on those sort of market values from them? 51 for Goff per year, 3.5 for Glasgow, 14 for Jonah, 8 for Gardner Johnson. I think that's where the players will want it to be at least.
I'm going to get flack face. Like I said, I have no interest in signing Chauncey Gardner Johnson. I have no interest in bringing him back at all. I don't like him. I think his personality, I think it sucks. The whole Debo bullshit on Twitter honestly really got under my skin. He's the pettiest of the pettiest. And it just, like, people say, like, oh, we don't upset the locker room. Well, you didn't care about that when you brought this guy in because he's a clown. And like I say, he does bring drama. And for me, he's at a position where we don't need to re-sign him. Like I said, he's already been usurped. I said, I'm rolling with Branch and Johnson and Walker. I'm not bringing him back at all. Like I said, and I think he's going to struggle to get a good market. Like I said, if he returns for the playoffs, like, so be it. But he's going to have to put on one hell of a show to convince me. It'll only be a 1-year deal. I do not give him a multi-year deal. Like I say, coming off an injury and questionable attitude while he's been injured and how he's been spending his free time, for me, it's kind of rubbing up the wrong way a little bit. But he could come in and could come back and be an instant playmaker. So he can win me over, but it's not going to be easy. Of those three guys, I take Jonah.
I'm going to come back just to trade deadline stuff now. I've put the vote in our WhatsApp group as well, so let's see if they have a view on that. And in the Discord as well. All right, in division stuff, Ezra Cleveland, the starting left guard of the Minnesota Vikings, for a 2024 6th round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jags need O-line help. He was a 2nd round pick back in the day. Hasn't really lived up to it, but he's not terrible. He's just not great. And the Vikings, I mean, they traded for Josh Dobbs. I'm not going to come on to that. I don't think that was a pick swap to get a quarterback in. I don't think there's anything to write home about, to be honest. But selling their guards, maybe they're not re-signing him at all, but a 6th round pick for a starting guard in this league, you feel like you might get more back in compo. So feels like they're really selling low here, boys.
Yeah, because they've got a potential steal there, haven't they? Like, even if you don't pan out, like you say, there's no damage done. Like I say, so 6th rounder, that is a 6th rounder, and bring in, like I say, you potentially get rid of your left guard and bring in a stopgap quarterback. Interesting corresponding moves, I suppose. Like, it don't bode well for whoever they want to put out there at centre. Like I say, he's not set the world alight. He's never lived up to the hype, but yeah, they've basically just given him away for a bag of magic beans. So I feel sorry for every person that takes a snap now for the rest of the year on the centre in Minnesota.
Yeah, there must have been some breakdown in relations between Cleveland and Minnesota, because there's not, as we keep saying week after week with these offensive line injuries, there's not enough good starting offensive linemen in the league to even fit out 32 starting caliber lines. So you're trading away someone who is a decent, capable starter at guard for basically fuck all. Is a dumbass move from Minnesota. Like, it's very much the tale of two cities with their trades. Obviously, giving away one of their pieces for basically fuck all in one hand, but at the same time trading for a quarterback as if you're trying to still make a push for the playoffs for that 7th seed really does not add up at all. You choose one or the other. Either you're out on this season and you're trading away pieces for whatever little capital you can get to just get as much talent in next year when you're having to replace a Danielle Hunter, potentially a Harrison Smith, potentially Kirk if he doesn't come back. So I think this is last year of his deal. Getting another offensive lineman, because our offensive line is still not exactly great. More defensive talent as well. They need as much capital, but at the same time, gaining Dobbs, like, fair play to him. Went to, obviously, the Browns, got traded to Arizona to be their starting QB, did pretty well, decent for them. And now since Kyler's come back, they're like, okay, let's move him. Minnesota's got him to be their starter now. Good for him. He's really getting a chance to maybe show that he's in that sort of 28 to 36, 40 range of QBs that if he's starting for you, you can win games, but you're not exactly happy about that. So really don't understand Minnesota. I know they've got their analytics head GM who's supposed to be really great according to BFF, but Jesus Christ, he's not doing well.
Yeah, I think he's not long for that role, if I'm honest. Gonna turn to the last one. I'm overlooking the Josh Dobbs one because I just don't think it's worth talking about. But another in-division trade is the Chicago Bears becoming buyers, getting edge Montez Sweat from the Washington Commanders, who receive a 2024 second-round pick in return. Boys, the Bears are buyers, the Washington Commanders are sellers, and the Commanders now end up with 2nd and 3rd round picks this year for their 2-star edge players. It's an interesting window for the Washington Commanders. But can I preempt both of you? I don't know whether you'll go along this line. We'll find out. What the fuck are the Bears doing?
Yep. Like, I know they need defensive help. This is like, why you're not that good. Like, come on. This is the Chase Claypool trade 2.0. You did this last year. Oh, we need a receiver to help Justin Fields. Let's send a second that's going to be very high. And it doesn't pan out. And now you've given them basically a 1st round pick because obviously Miami had their 1st round taken away. So the Steelers basically got a free 1st round pick in reality, in a way. They've done it all over again. Like, they could have easily got a top 5-10 pick. I'm not going to mention my hometown edge because he has fallen down a bit in rankings, but they still could have got him. They could have got someone like Dallas Turner, who's showing out pretty well. There's quite a few good edges in this top of this class they could have gone for. Now they probably locked themselves into Montez Sweat because they traded for him for a higher pick, and now they're probably going to have to sign him to a big contract as well because him and his agent know they've got a lot of bloody cap space coming. They've got a lot of cap space, and they're going to demand a large portion of that now. So they've kind of screwed themselves over a bit more. So, Brian Poles, whatever you're doing in the kitchen, keep whipping it up because you're absolutely feeding us Lions fans.
See, I don't agree. I get it. I really think when you're talking like picks 30 to 35, when you're kind of in that like I would rather go after a guy in his prime that's going to want $16 million a year than take Lucas Van Ness. If there was like the two options on the table, like I take the guy that agents know the agent could fleece me, but the guy has been there, he's done it. He's at still a really good age as well, Montez Sweat. People on Twitter are acting like he's an old man. Like that's just not true. The guy is he's right up there right now. He's going to get the bag. He's deserved it. Washington didn't want to give him it, and it's early in the days of Bears. Well, yeah, it's very early. It's somewhat premature move when they're ready to compete. We don't know how long Montez Sweat will have left on the deal they give him, or how old he will be. But it kind of feels like the Crosby on the Raiders will be the Sweat on the Bears. Like that one constant potential reliable threat that does have pieces behind him. I'm looking at Brisker. I'm looking at Sanborn, and they kept hold of Jalen Johnson. And on the defensive side of the ball, I get what the Bears are doing. Right, so it will all come down to they're pretty much. I'm pretty sure I've read that they pretty much agreed the deal. We're just waiting to find out in the coming days that they're gonna pay him. The proof will be in the pudding of just how well he gets paid. But as a long-term piece, I kind of get it for them. And I do not like having him in the NFC North. I don't want to play him twice a year because I think he is really good. So for me, he's going to be a thorn in our side. And it has irritated me that in the short term, they've got better, a bit better. And in the long term, maybe they've got a lot better. I agree, they're looking so far in the future that Ryan Poole probably will not bear the fruits of this labour. He's doing this for a future generation, but yeah, they're trying to make big splashes. This will go better than the Tremaine Edmonds throwing loads of millions of dollars at him. I'm pretty sure of that anyway.
They've got $110 million of cap space next year, but I think DJ Moore's going to ask for a new deal. He's got $1.1 million worth of guaranteed money in the next 2 seasons. He's going to want re-upping. They have Eddie Jackson on $18 million cap hit. Tremaine Edmonds on a $22 million cap hit. They are probably going to draft the starting quarterback and maybe a starting offensive lineman or wide receiver with their first 2 picks. So, maybe an edge player is warranted here, but the rest of that D-line is so bad that I just don't think that getting one good player moves the needle for this team. And I feel like they're trying to accelerate their rebound too quickly. Instead of saying, I know this is a 2-year thing, I'm going to embrace it like we did, basically. They're going, I think we can get the 7 seed next year. We could be crap, but maybe we get 9 wins. And, that doesn't help you in the long run. They're going to be stuck with, or it feels like going this way inevitably means that if your quarterback is fine, not amazing, but good enough, that you're locking yourself into, being a 500 team for the next 5 years. I just don't like this direction. It's too soon to make this kind of a deal for me. Even with the cap space and you can commit this number to a player, I'd rather do it in free agency than give up a 2nd round pick. There's going to be edge players available in free agency. There always is. Overpay for them then rather than giving away the 2nd as well. You didn't need to give up the capital.
He would have been available. There was nothing to say that the Falcons actually had any interest. The rumours were there, weren't they? But yeah, if the Bears don't make this move, we certainly don't make it. Certainly the Falcons were rumoured to have offered a 3rd, but with how bad they look, they were never going to make this move and give them the massive contract. So yeah, they've preempted the gun, saying that they've basically said, we don't want to wait till free agency and compete for you, so we're going to go get you now.
Yeah.
It's really interesting in Chicago. If they draft Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., they are literally going balls to the wall. They trade Fields for whatever pennies they can get. Yeah, they're saying that we're gonna live and die by the sword. That's kind of like Ryan Poles knows his days are numbered. he's going to do some just outlandish things. It's exciting, but it's also, it's volatile. It will blow up in their face spectacular very quickly.
I'm actually low-key looking forward to being in attendance at the draft when the Bears walk to the podium with the number 1 pick in hand, just to see what they do. Like, it actually slightly excites me in a sicko kind of way.
Well, obviously, to add to your excitement, obviously, we all know I'm a massive Drake May fan. So if the Bears take him, I will be very upset. It's up there with the potential of the Green Bay Packers taking Mr. Verse level of upset here.
I mean, upset but drunk, so it's okay. We're going to have a great time. Anyway, I think we're going to draw this one to a close because we've gone on a lot longer than I thought we would. Of course, the Lions are on a bye, so there is no episode this Thursday, and the College Football Podcast has already happened this week. So, our next episode is likely going to be on Monday next week, which is going to be our half-season review show. We're going to take a look back at the last 8 games. What did we do well? Where's there room for improvement? What's going to happen in the next 9 games of the season? College Football Podcast will be back next week, looking back at week 10 and looking ahead to week 11 as the season draws to a close. I mean, Ryan, I don't think people have seen it on the audio pod yet because I don't think it's gone up. It was an exciting week of college football just gone.
Oh, yeah, it was massive because we're on the verge of the first playoff committee. We're on the first
90 minutes.
Yep,
90 minutes
we're
away.
about to receive the first 4 teams, and ESPN put their predictions out, and they're a crock of shit that we looked at yesterday because they had Ohio State number 1, and we did laugh at that. That was quite funny. But no, this week was the first real week that felt like people are separating themselves. Right now, there are defined teams. There's 5 or 6 teams right now vying for 4 spots. And everyone else has just been laid in their wake. And yeah, bowl spots as well, they're filling rapidly. So yeah, the next 2 weeks pretty much going to wrap up the most part of the regular season. I can't believe I'm saying that as well, that we're nearly 10, 11 games out of 12 in.
It's ridiculous how quickly it's gone. Like I mentioned, the draft is in Detroit this year, so if you're going to be in attendance, if you want to know all about the players that are going there, and if you're just interested in college football anyway, there's no better time than to listen to the boys chat college football. Of course, follow us on our socials on Roar the Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and the Facebook group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans, UK One Pride Worldwide. Website is rotluk.com. Ash has his preview articles up there. I've just put up the review article from this game, so go and check it out. Subscribe and rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Much appreciated if you do that. Guys, it's been a heck of a first half of the season. 6-2, sole position of the second seed in the NFC, joint second in the NFL. It's been a heck of a season so far, and looking forward to breaking down the half season with you next week. Guys in the YouTube and Twitch chats, we're going to be leaving you here. Unfortunately, it's been a late day with yesterday and today, so thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. For now, for Ash, for Ryan. Iron? Who's that? I'm Matt. Let's go, Lions. One Pride, 6-2, NFC North champions. It's happening. It's happening.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.